本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It's Friday, November 13th. And you're listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 359. It is going to be a full house this episode between the two halves of the pod. I'm Austin Walker, and in this first half, we are joined by Patrick Klepek.
Hello.
Rob Zachney.
How's it going?
And Ricardo Contreras, who is going nowhere because in the second half, we're going to talk about Destiny. Good. Okay. I wasn't doing a...
I was trying...
Is that you?
Yeah, that was definitely Demon Souls NPC. I was just doing a generic Friday the 13th laugh.
Right.
Because of it being Friday the 13th.
I figured it was maybe a good segue to roll right into
it. I have not encountered a ha yet, and also the ha-ha-has now would be motion captured voices and would mess with your head.
Well, would they like move away from the mic, basically? Like, what's the...
I haven't encountered someone chained to a, somewhere in a dungeon that it just cackles at you I spent
some time this morning trying to find a live stream of someone who would encounter one of the official characters who have like the big halberds. They're technically called fat officials, which is important because they are even more like grossly fat phobic in their design in the remake. But I want to know if they do the laugh, if they do that cackling laugh that the original ones did. Because they don't, from the images I've seen, they look like they're frowning now, and I want to make sure they're okay. I want to make sure they kept their chipper attitudes. So yeah, Demon Souls is the thing we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a bunch of different stuff. As the PS5 and Xbox Series of consoles, the Xbox Series have come out, and with it, a handful of launch games across mostly
People
the PS5.
Vaping their Xbox. Have to be warned to do not vape the Xbox, or I don't know if they were telling people not to do that as a joke because they have a good social media account, or how dangerous is it to vape the Xbox? Didn't Galt write a piece? I didn't know if it would
don't put
water in your shit.
Yeah, moisture can't be good to electronics.
But like, how bad? What do we like? What's the? We do bad things with our electronics all the time, and it's just like it's a scale. Like, how bad are we talking?
This looks like it's a bit like pointing a humidifier, though, like at your electronics and being like, "This will be sick."
That is essentially what a vape rig is, right?
Yeah, but that's like your dedicated electronics that you put vape into. It's built for it. It can take it. I'm not saying the Xbox Series X doesn't look like a vape rig, but I feel like it's a very expensive one, and probably one that's not going to give you the juice you want. E-juice.
Well, it's really young, so it's a perfect target for the vaping demographic. Need to get that thing hooked on nicotine as quickly as possible.
Jesus Christ.
Oh God. Actually, you know what? I'm making an executive decision. We got a bunch of big games to talk about today. Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to start at something smaller because I need to hear about it because I haven't had time to play it yet, which is, Cado, you have put time into the Umurangi Generation DLC.
Hell yeah.
Can
I have a question about this? I want to premise this conversation. So that is like top of my list of game I need to play before the end of the year that came out while I was on paternity leave. Yeah. And then so I was like tracking down a code and like talked to the designer, and he was like, "Hey, like this DLC just came out." So I thought it came out for Switch. I was trying to track that down, and it hadn't come out for Switch yet. And he was like, "Has the premise of this DLC been spoiled for you yet?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Cool, you should keep it that way." So if you that's what they said. Cado, I was just like, is there a world where I need to put on earmuffs, or like, is it going to ruin playing this game that I'm pretty sure is going to be Austin's game of the year?
It's going to be my game of the year.
If you
something dramatic would happen.
I'm not super spoiler averse. Like, I'm not trying to like nerf this conversation, but I do feel like it's going to be one of those games. As we head towards the end of the year, people are like, shit, I need to play. Because I've seen some tweets. I've seen some images of some like graffiti that kind of gave me some vibes. But anyway, I didn't mean to like completely stifle the beginning of this. I just thought about this as soon, because I literally did this like 24 hours ago, and was just curious if that put any sort of angle on the way you would end up talking about it.
I think, honestly, I can see the impulse there, but I don't know that it's gonna be that serious. Like,
okay.
I mean, I think it's mostly implications left by the end of the like base game.
Oh, interesting.
That it subverts. That is interesting. But I can kind of talk around that if you don't know what the end of the base game is. So
I do not. Yeah. So maybe
Austin will know and understand. Anyone who's played that will understand.
Yeah, you can do big hands. You can audibly wink. However you want to do that, and I'll be just fine because I'm sure I won't play it for another month.
But yeah, Umurangi Generation Macro is what the DLC is called. It's 4 new levels and a bunch of new gear, and it's just expanding this game, and like some of this gear is kind of like quality of life stuff, like the skates, which just mean you can move really, really quickly through these things, but also add in an element that you can kind of change and edit the world, because you leave like a light trail as you move around on the skates. So you can like draw like a thing in the sky and then like turn around, and like as you like do a 360 spin, like there's a little loop in the air or whatever.
That's sick.
It's really cool. It's like and then another thing that they add in is the spray cans, so you can like physically edit, just draw on different surfaces in the world. And one of them is knee pads that let you like crouch lower.
Hell yeah!
Which is
finally
great. So you can get really low angle shots. It's really neat, and I think that it's interesting to see those original levels and compare them to these. Mostly because I feel like there's something a little almost. I guess the word that comes to mind immediately is gamey, more gamey, I guess. Than the original levels, but that makes it sound like it loses focus on photography, which it really doesn't. It's just something about the structure of these DLC levels is has more thought, I feel like, to the way you move around the space.
Okay.
In like a good way, it really uses grabbing your attention and moving you through areas.
Versus just kind of being dropped into a space and being like, all right, figure it out.
Right. There's like in the original levels, it's very much like, here's your open space, you explore as you will, and there are very few kind of, I guess I would call them almost like reveals or like moments of like, oh, something has shifted here in this space, unless you're like, it's like the space almost kind of feels static in the original DLCs, and then in these new ones, there's always kind of there always seems to be like a twist at some point, or like a new thing that kind of changes your idea.
That's a pretty big distinction.
Yeah, it's like a new thing that changes your idea of what the area is. Like you're in the area, you see what the area, and then there's kind of a reveal or a kind of secret area or something like that. That's like, oh, now I'm seeing this space in a different way.
Cool.
And I will say also that the spaces are, they feel a little bit larger this time even. Like, overall, it's just like, it's kind of, Umurangi Generation base game, but more, and with lots of great quality of life improvements that I'm really enjoying so far. But yeah, story-wise, it like, if you've seen the end of the DLC, you would imagine that it's placing this on the timeline is kind of iffy.
Sure.
But questions are answered pretty quickly in one of those reveals in the early levels, and it's really neat. I think it's a really interesting way to kind of expand on what the original game was talking about with kind of the idea of government and community, and like the state kind of not listening to a community that understands what might be happening, right?
Sure. Which is what that game had already been about in a real way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like it expands on that, and you kind of get a little more of like the community side of it, which is really neat, right?
Okay, awesome. I'm hoping to be able to get to it this weekend.
At this point, just walking around spoilers because
right.
It is really like some of the stuff in there is really neat. So
we should talk about that stuff in a future episode once people have had the time to dig into it.
But it's definitely worth
it.
checking out. If you haven't checked out the game, like I still always even with the like qualms I had about how movement felt a little off in those early levels, like do it. It's fucking great. You'll deal with the weird. Also, you can double jump. I didn't. You can double jump,
which you didn't know at the time.
At the time, just a heads up to anyone playing this game from the beginning. You can double jump. It'll help you a lot.
God. All right. Cool. That's Umurangi Generation Macro, which is out on PC now. Is there a date? Were you given a date for the Switch release, Patrick, when you asked?
No. But it was announced a little while back. It seems like, would I be shocked if that was one of those, like some sort of like mini direct and then it just
and then it just drops one.
Like, would I be shocked if it came out tomorrow and they just couldn't tell me? Like,
right.
Like, no. No. I didn't ask.
Sounds good. All right. With one of my most anticipated things out of the way, we talk about another thing I'm anticipating greatly, though also just incredibly curious about in a more distant way in some ways, which is this Demon's Souls remake, which
you have to, Austin has to wait a little bit longer because Patrick looked into redirecting a UPS package to Austin's place, and we are Vice is getting
buying
a PS5.
Thankfully, buying me a PS5. I'm very grateful.
And so I
do my job.
I spammed a bunch of pre-orders months ago, not knowing whether I would be lucky enough to get one from Sony for reviewing purposes, and then I couldn't change the address where it was going to, and someone was like, "Oh, well, sometimes you can like if you sign up for UPS's like website, their personalization stuff, you can redirect it once they get the tracking number." And I was like, "Cool, I'll try that." Got the tracking number, got pinged, and it said, "Hey, do you want to send it somewhere else?" I was like, "I absolutely do." A little asterisk says like, it's at least $15 to send it somewhere else. I'm like, that's fine. I'm not paying this shit anyway. $15 seems pretty reasonable. And so I like verify with Austin. I'm like, okay, this is the address you sent me. Let me type it in. Might not get there, on Thursday, but hopefully, Monday or something like that. Click it. It's like, you're all set. This is great. It's gonna be at least $15. Click the next button, and it says calculating total. It's like $14.99 for the shipping address change. Like, great.
Cool.
Transportation costs $240. And I'm like,
absolutely not.
I don't quite understand how. I mean, I understand. It's told me it's like, this is gas, this is yacht. I was like, I get it. I understand what you're telling me, UPS. I don't understand how I have to wait for it to show up, then go to a UPS place and then pay $42 or whatever to send it normally. So we will get that to you soon enough so we can.
I'm very patient about it. I went into this year not expecting to end up with either of these consoles because there wasn't enough at launch for me to shell out that money. So I'm grateful that you're doing the busy work, the legwork of getting it shipped out to me, and I'm thankful that Vice is buying me one. So I can wait a little longer. But I do need to know what you think of that Demon's Souls remake. Though, of course, you've only put a little bit of time into it because this was not a game that we got preview. This was not a game that got review code early.
No, this is a game where the code went out the moment it went live in New Zealand on the PlayStation Store. So this is kind of something that press got access to basically as soon as the first possible customers could. My understanding is they were working on that game to the last possible second, a lot of next gen stuff. So that's nothing unique to Demon's Souls. That is just the nature of, if you've heard our podcast about next gen stuff in the past, we've talked a lot about this game worked and then it didn't. And then there was a patch later, or there was, so it's just, nothing especially unique to Demons there. But it did mean, the game I was most interested in playing probably across both these consoles was one where, it was coming in at the last second. So I played, I played 4 hours. I have played through Tower Knight, the second major boss in Demon's Souls. Yeah, through 1-2. So
you're playing straight. You played straight through 1-1 and then 1-2. You didn't go somewhere else after 1-1.
No. I mean, for folks who haven't played Demon's Souls, is a little bit different than sort of the world structure of other Souls games, in which you're more in like a broad world that you can like kind of spokes off to different levels. It kind of hides the fact that you're going to different areas, and just kind of presents that like, oh, you're just in a place, go wherever you want. Like in Demon Souls, you start in a place called the Nexus, where your soul is trapped in this world of, demons, and there are archstones that are basically just like, you want to go to level 1? You want to go to level 2? You want to go to level 3? And the game doesn't categorize it by 1-1, 1-2, but the fan community refers to them as 1-1, 1-2 based on like the areas that you're going into. So you get through 1-2, you hit like literally a gate that you can't get past. It's like you need, I forget, it's like a soul of a something, which is your indication.
Souls, I believe.
Yeah, it's like your indication like, hey, why don't you go check out 2-1 or 3-1 and see what else the game has to offer. But yeah, like I think it's gorgeous. I think this game is going to be picked apart in some really interesting ways. In the piece that I wrote, I allude to this a little bit, in which Bluepoint, the developer, who From Software didn't seem like they were particularly involved in this remake all that much, based on what I've seen with interviews with Bluepoint, but like they are making like clear aesthetic choices. This is much further than Shadow of the Colossus, which even then they were making aesthetic choices that for folks that really are passionate about that game, I know have said that it was important and meaningful. But like this is just on a different level, in which the fidelity at which they're trying to display this game, there would just be no way for them to completely follow the kind of the blueprint, that you can't just up-res what was already there. You'd had to do some interpretation. As someone that last played Demon Souls 5 years ago, I played it just before Bloodborne came out. My memory is like kind of fuzzy on the details. Like, This game looks like Demon Souls to me. I've looked at the comparisons. People are like, the Gothic, the types of architecture change. I'm not trying to downplay.
Change. I know.
That stuff.
You're not that person.
I'm just not that person. So I think that's going to be important. Dia is that person. Dia,
I'm that person.
Dia for weeks has already been like, you motherfucker, you're going to like this game more than you should. And that's because I genuinely come to these games, the atmosphere, the lore, like, it's there. It's fine. But I come here for the fight. Like, that's what I come for. Mm-hmm. I come to these games for. And this game looks gorgeous, plays. You didn't tell me From didn't make it. I wouldn't have been able to tell you otherwise. And in the same way that when 343 first made Halo 4, it was kind of impressive that like, hey, it's kind of a magic trick. Like, they just made a Halo game, and this just looks and plays and feels like a Halo game. I think it wasn't a particularly good Halo game, but like they did the magic trick part, and Demon Souls accomplishes the same thing. Like, I'm sitting around playing a From Software game. I don't know that From Software is going to do, as I alluded to earlier, like motion capture for their like their NPCs. That part, watching the mouths move realistically, is very, very strange. Like, just maybe that's it for me. Is like, I don't care that like the Gothic architecture has changed like as the aesthetic or time period, but then I watch like an NPC move their mouth like a real person. I'm like, no.
It's like
that mouth just needs to kind of flap, and it needs to be awkward and weird. And this just looks like a real person in Boletaria. This place doesn't have real citizens. Like, come on,
everyone should be a little bit off. It's like when I think was it that Silent Hill 2 remake where they like redid all of the dialogue and it all sounded a little too natural, because it's like, no, it's Silent Hill. Everyone's supposed to be talking past each other, and like there's supposed to be like 4 seconds of dead air between everybody saying everything. You can't just make it regular.
And I could be corrected here because I haven't been closely following all the interviews, but I want to say that like there are some original voice actors. There are like replacement voice actors. Sure. Like, this was, I think, they had to, for like fidelity's sake, they had to do certain work. And probably, not just fidelity, but just like creatively, they went and redid some of that stuff. there were times when I was playing last night where I wanted to then pull up YouTube videos of just like watching the NPCs side by side to see where that stuff falls. But and all this is really important, and I'll be curious when you get it and fans start picking this apart to see more stuff that I'm just not going to notice because it's been 5 years. But in like the broad strokes, where for a game that is no Souls game is truly overlooked these days, but Demon Souls still, I think, if for a lot of people that say they like Souls games, I bet more often than not they did not play Demon Souls. It is, I still think in some degree an overlooked masterpiece, and it is an interesting rough draft for like what Demon Souls would come to polish. And the parts that it does polish, there are reasons people still prefer Demon Souls because of the certain things that it does.
Well, and there really are, for me, so much of the appeal of Demon Souls is the ways in which it's distinct from Dark Souls and Bloodborne. In its aesthetic, and that's not to say I don't like those other aesthetics. Like those other aesthetics are good, but it's
its design aesthetic. It
totally.
It feels like it is. Like the way it handles health, right? Like
right.
Like it's more Bloodborne in that regard. You are using consumable items. There's a magic spell you can use to recover health, but that is going to be class specific or not necessarily worthwhile if you're going for a barbarian or warrior build or something like that.
In original Demon Souls, it's actually distinct from Bloodborne because there was no cap on how many healing items you could have. Right, you could have 90 healing grasses
Parsley
and
leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever they were called, half moon crescent leaves or whatever. That's not
grass.
It was crescent,
It's
half
No,
moon.
that's
Moon.
moon.
It's grass. Yeah.
It's grass. It's
Grass.
that grass.
It is grass.
Dark moon
It is that
grass,
Dark
crescent
moon
grass.
Yeah, exactly. But you could have 99 of them if you wanted to. You could grind out a bunch of them across all those different varieties. Now I believe you told me that it was capped, right?
You are not capped. Look, if you want to have a 99 full healing grass, you can. The problem is they added in the remake, and I think this speaks to what's going to be so interesting as I get further in it, and really when fans start to point out, because I just think like for someone that I played it 5 years ago, like Gene Park on Twitter is like, I haven't touched this in 11 years. There are just things that just you're not going to know. Like they may have changed things for better or for worse that you're just not going to pick up on because you just didn't make a mental note of that. But like for example, the grass in Demon Souls did not have weight, so there was no encumbrance, and so a huge part of all the Souls games is, look, you can't be a wizard with tanking armor. Like you're gonna have to take things into account based on like what you're equipping, and one of the ways that you could kind of like adjusted the difficulty level of Demon Souls was that, well, you could just grind out like full health refills and carry all of them and make bosses like a lot more manageable. You're not going to be able to do that here. You're going to have to manage what grass you're bringing with and how much you're going to bring with you, because the encumbrance in Souls changes how fast you can roll. So it's like if you want to be a big tank, maybe you bring all the health with you because you're fine with just sort of like dodging to the side very slowly, or just holding a shield up and like taking the brunt of those attacks until they go through the attack animation. So that's a case where I can't play out yet how that feels across the whole game, but that feels like a smart choice. Like that feels like that makes the game, I don't know about better, but I think it's an interesting choice that reflects. I don't know. I do think it probably makes the game better. I think you should have to consider that stuff.
Yeah. So I think it's worth me saying, and I wish I'd touched this game to talk about it from a firsthand perspective. Right. But like, I am not a purist about adaptations generally.
Me either. Especially when remakes come out of movies, it's like, do whatever the fuck you want. As long as the original thing is there. But there's a caveat here because the original thing is not really there.
This is the dilemma for me. Is like I can't go play the original Demon Souls easily. I don't have a PS3 anymore. If I did,
you can't emulate it, and I believe they just recently figured out networking on. They did.
Right? I watched some footage of this. Yeah. I don't know if it's like final yet, but it's coming together.
But in the next year or so, like you'll be able to play like a pure version of Demon Souls with like a emulator community.
Totally, but there is no. But yes, I could go do that. But for the average person who does not know how to get an emulator up and running on their extremely powerful PC, which they don't own because they're expensive, they can't go play Demon Souls as it was originally released, or with those considerations in mind. And that remains, that's a frustrating point for me. But more importantly, like I think go for it with adaptations, but that also means that you can also criticize adaptations on their own merits and whether or not it sticks the landing and says something cohesive or has a through line. My big fear with this is that it's something that they're chasing the later Souls and Bloodborne aesthetic because that's what's become expected from soft games, and not because that was the identity that held this original game together. I'll have to see it firsthand, and I'll be able to see more than just the first, the Boletaria Palace, to see how that works. Because there are places where I think, I for instance, I've seen the new Mind Flayers, the prison guards in the Latrian prison, the Tower of Latria, right? And I think that those still work for me. Like those are an extension of what was already there. But I've seen like Satsuki, the one it has like a huge katana, and they did that boy dirty. Let me show you. That's a different man as far as I can tell. Oh wow. Yeah, that's a different man. He used to be like an anime that's overlord,
artwork, right? Like I want.
No, that's his model. The one on the left is his model. Okay, remember the loading screens used to be like the models with sepia tone.
Yeah.
Which no loading screens, I guess now.
No,
because
the loading is exceptionally.
That's exciting.
It's not
that's a good question.
It's
very
like, fast.
Does it feel different when you die and then immediately you're back?
Yes, it does.
So so we should transition to this because Austin, you and I could go down a lot of rabbit holes.
Yeah, we can. I'm going to play this game and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, and I want to bring Rob in because specifically he edited my piece. He is playing it, and he was DMing me things that are indicative of like what I'm excited about this game coming out. Whatever reservations there may be amongst Souls fans about what has changed is the fact that it's going to introduce it to millions of people.
Looking for a launch game,
are curious. I don't know that Rob would have played this if he didn't get a code that showed up in his inbox and he could redeem it on his brand new PS5. But Rob, we can get to the questions you asked, 'cause I did want to address some of them like on here because I think are worth like talking about for like newcomers. But I'm curious, like what your take, because you said had you tried one of these before?
Yeah, no, like, Demon Souls is the one I tried to get into back when it was sort of the sleeper hit around the Brainy Sphere in 20 whatever. And I had like an intense day or so with it. Like I'm not even sure I got out of the opening stages of the Boletaria Palace because like there was a certain moment where I'd crossed into a new area and it had been a real pain in the ass. And I was like, this is cool. But I'm a freelance writer, and this is like pulling teeth for me, and I need to I can see what it will take to get this game done for me, and like in terms of what I'm getting out of it and the time it's demanding, it's just not going to go. And so I just kind of hit eject, and that was kind of me in the Souls series, like done at that point.
Damn.
'Cause it's not like I got less busy.
Right.
And there were people who were like better equipped to talk about those games. So it was never something that as a critic, my voice was needed. And it certainly wasn't something that fit just the logistics of my life. But something else has changed. Like there's a few elements to this that jumped out at me. One is that I think the loading times do matter a lot. Like you die and you get the message, and then you are immediately back at the start of the level, like instantaneously. Like the you died screen comes up and then it fades right out back into you starting your run again. And that is not how it was on the PS3.
No.
PS3, like when you died, you had plenty of time to contemplate how fucking
how mad you were.
Oh yeah. And then you'd have to do all this again, and the loading time became like part of the punishment of dying, and that felt bad. It made the entire thing feel a little bit like more of a slog. And here, that ability to just go straight back into it does give it kind of a cool live, die, repeat kind of vibe where like it is hard cut to your run ending, and then you're immediately like just taking off full throttle back through the stuff you've done. And now you do have that vibe. For me, it's way easier to get that vibe of, okay, I know all the steps to this portion of the level. And so now I am just like fucking dervishing through this opening stage of the level, trying to get back to where I was. And it feels cool in a way that when I first played this game, it felt labored. It might matter a little bit that this is the first Souls game I'm playing with Adderall. which is probably helping my that level of slightly sticky attention.
Yeah,
I'm yeah, okay, no, I remember all this. Yeah, I've got it. I've got the download. Okay, yeah, swing, slash, fuck you, and I'm flying through it that way, which is good. In terms of the aesthetics, to me, it feels like there's not a lot of atmospheric character to the game so far. Again, I need to see things that aren't the Boletarian Palace.
Mm-hmm.
But that section feels very much like artist portfolio work showing their command of fantasy styles.
Right.
As for a job application. That's a harsh way to put it, but it is how it feels. Right down to the bright blue banners. Just everything about it kind of feels like, what is the character of Boletaria? Oh, it's just a generic fantasy kingdom. And I'm not sure that's and I think that stems to, even going to the Nexus, the bit you see of it, everything about Demon Souls, I remember having this really dour limbo-esque feeling. Not the game, but the concept of limbo.
Yeah. That's right.
You feel like an undead warrior who's just damned to repeat this shit forever. And everyone has that, Odysseus talking to people on the shores of the River Styx vibe of we're here and yeah, sure, we'll chat, but none of this matters.
You've got an NPC who says yeah, when the demons showed up, I ran from my wife and daughter and now I'm stuck here in the Nexus. Do you want me to? I do storage here. You want me to hold on to your shit? I got it.
I can
not going anywhere. Yeah,
and that would extend to
the demons got my family. That sucks.
Yeah, and the Nexus was not pretty in Demon Souls. The Nexus was kind of this, it felt like an empty cathedral.
Well, the game also had a I've just heard it described as piss orange filter over all of Demon Souls. And this game has. I have not messed with it.
Are you talking about the filters option?
It has filters, and one of the filters is classic or something where it attempts to. This is what I've read. I haven't messed with this stuff because I've tried to just approach the game as here's what they're presenting me, and I'm just gonna take it on those terms instead of chasing, because I feel like whatever the default is, this is what they wanted you to do, and stuff like that is tinkering at the margins in weird ways. But I've heard I do believe there is a color filter that changes the aesthetic slightly to make it a little more in line with the kind of tint that was present in a lot of Demon Souls lighting. But I do think I feel like this game is chasing Bloodborne in a lot of ways. Yeah. Which I'm fine with because Bloodborne's maybe my favorite game ever made. So it's if this is the closest I get to Bloodborne 2, then I'm not crying.
Here it is.
And it might be making it easier to spend time in the world too. To a degree, there was an oppressiveness to Demon Souls and a claustrophobia. But
you're
also,
right, though. Yes.
Also, I'm okay, I have a better sense of there being space and I can see what's going on a little bit better. And that's another thing. Early in the Boletarian Palace, there's this portion where you are running through the interior of the castle walls. And in the original game, it's you are running through a black void and then fireballs begin dropping on you. And the only warning you got was the sound cue of the torch kicking off and then shit's exploding and it's just terrifying. It's I do not know what is happening. Is there a fireball monster up there? What is happening? Here you walk into that space and you're oh, there's dudes up there. You just kind of look up and you can see them moving around in the rafters and
there's another thing that is different here too, is that this is the first game other than Astro's Playroom that uses the DualSense to any meaningful degree in terms of manifestly sort of impacting the play experience. It's not critical, but so in these folks that you're talking, these enemies that throw fire bombs at you, these Boletarian soldiers that are kind of left behind that toss them in different parts of the inner parts of the castle. When they are doing the wind up for throwing the firebomb, if you are near them, the haptic sensors on the DualSense begin to vibrate. And so you get a very brief sort of
spider sense is tingling.
Yeah, straight up. And I didn't notice it at first until I was well, that was kind of weird how that vibrated. And I was let me I've got one of these guys up ahead. I'm going to see I want to actually like see in real time, like what is actually occurring. And I saw like, as I approached, like before the firebomb came whisking my way, I would feel the haptic triggers kind of go, I want to say that like there is a slight vibration if you're trying to parry, but I didn't feel that. I need to like mess with that a little more. But that is like one instance where like there is a sort of like a meaningful change that does impact that kind of like mysteriousness that I think a lot of people really like about Demon's Souls or just the Souls games in general. That is one of like the approaches is like the appealing parts is like you walk into a room and you get ganked by 6 dudes because
a skeleton appears from an alcove.
Oh my god, the giant skeleton, the famous Vinny moment from Giant Bomb. I love that bit. And the game isn't actually tricking you. You just weren't being careful enough, and then the whole joy.
Your shield was down. You were running forward instead of walking. Yeah.
But it is true that Rob's right. That like some of the lighting, and maybe you can adjust that. Like there are sliders and things like that where you can change how dark the game is.
Maybe you wait for people to put out the like. These are your pro level sliders. Like it's a.
I think there straight up might be stuff like that where it's like probably these days games are people are sliding the brightness higher. And it may be the case that like if you could adjust that stuff, to a T, that you might be able to get something. I don't know, but I do think stuff like that will come out of a game like this as people dig into, personal preference, because like personal preference is really like a huge part of playing these games.
I love that we're heading toward a aesthetic like Madden sliders thing.
That's
where
what
it's like you're just waiting for people's like sliders come out. When's Austin gonna publish his Demon Souls sliders? I gotta know. Like what's your brightness at? Austin, what's the gear
see people do that with HDR.
Oh yeah. Well, that's to a degree. It is also frustrating that how non-standard HDR calibration tools are within games. Tell me what I am supposed to be looking for. Am I supposed to be able to pick out detail here, or is it supposed to get blown out? But like a lot of times they just give you a picture and it's like, hey, you just want to fuck with how that looks? And I'm like, you're the presumably there's some kind of engineer on the other side of this calibration screen who's like, this is a useful reference image. Tell me what I'm referencing. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. And instead
is this
it's like
candle or is this the sun? What the fuck am I supposed to do?
This was AC Valhalla, which was like, hey, so do you want a bright henge or a dingy henge? And I'm like,
I don't know. Do what?
Is this dawn? Is it night? What is it?
God.
But I think this is a better PlayStation controller too, and I do think this is one of the reasons I'm getting way more into. I'm playing the Wanderer class. Okay. And
but as I told you, I think you need to start over and play the Royal.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Patrick. One, I'm an anti-monarchist. Two, do I want to play some rich boy who like went through the fissure and is like, never faced consequences in his life? And like, I'm a royal. Do you know who I am?
Rob, you can roleplay whatever peasant in this game that you want, but I will be off to the side flinging fucking rocket launcher blue arrows at the people slinging arrows at me while you hide behind the wall, pulling up your bow and arrow. Like, well, maybe I could get this guy, and then I'll just be strolling through. Rob.
That's a good Rob voice. For what it's worth, Rob, I played a Wanderer when I first played Demon Souls, and I played the Japanese. I like the starting stuff there. You start with like a scimitar, or no, it's a falchion. Yeah. That's a fun build. It's like a dex build.
I would encourage for one of the questions I did have is. Well, so when I didn't want to replay this remake as a royal. When I played Demon Souls, I just wanted to get through it because I hadn't experienced it before, and I was like rushing through it before Bloodborne came out. I played like just a couple of weeks. I was like, I need to beat this before I get a code for Bloodborne. And so people said, well, if you're just trying to get through it, like, Royal's an interesting class to play. Magic is kind of overpowered in Demon Souls. And most people on their first run through a lot of Demon Souls games, or Souls games in general, don't play magic classes. That's often what people do on a second, third, fourth run when they want to play the game a little bit differently. And I was like, sure, like I've never done that. Like, let's do that. And it resulted in a lot of people like wringing their hands because they're like, oh, this is funny, except for the fact that you're just like blowing through huge chunks of the game, like sniping dudes with your wand. And I don't know how that will play out in the rest of the game. It is. Again, this is something where I'm curious for like YouTube creators to crunch the numbers and like see what has or hasn't changed. But I will say I am running around with my Soul's magic missile, and I am just dunk.
Well, the biggest thing there too is you have the noble starts with.
It starts with the rare ring that increases MP regeneration automatically.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's the part that makes it.
Yes.
Because you could just wait in between each encounter and let your soul arrow come back.
You can. It's like a long time. And maybe that's one thing that's changed. I have no idea. I mean, it's not such a long time that as you're just kind of casually going through an area, it won't fill back up. Right. But like, for example, I'm like hemming and hawing on like spoilers, but like, I'm just gonna say whatever. Sorry, skip ahead 30 seconds. The Tower Knight, the second boss, is especially weak to magic and like the soul arrow in particular. Like you can target its head if you can line it up with the soul arrow and do like 180 points. I know it's wild how overpowered Demon Souls magic is. I just don't know if that stuff is going to like continue playing out, throughout the rest of the game. I don't know how if that balance has been adjusted at all, but it feels good. But the only reason I did that was because I was like, if I'm going to sit down with this game, I'd be curious to engage with it the way I'm most familiar, which was rolling that class. So I did like a wanderer or a magician, like I was like, I still want to do magic because that's how I think of Demon Souls canonically in my head. But I ended up just going back to the royal. But now I just want to re-roll and do someone else because I've done that already. Like I played Demon Souls as a royal. I think I'm going to
start as a Temple Knight and do some miracles. I've never done miracles in Demon Souls. And I'm in retrospect, it's like that would make it so that I've done miracles in Demon Souls, heavy in or physical stuff in Dark Souls, miracles in Dark Souls 2, physical stuff in Dark Souls 3.
Well, because 2 really expanded the magic stuff, right? Dark Souls 2 was like a huge
miracles
magic.
And dark miracle stuff was really, really good.
Is the difference between, because like there's, in Demon Souls, there's miracles and spells, right? Like is the different, I think that's the difference between the two.
I believe that's right, yeah.
Is like one of them just like buffs and one of them's attack? Like I don't know what the, because I mostly did spells with the royal.
I believe that there are also some. I guess it's mostly. Now I'm looking at.
If it's anything like Dark Souls, that seems almost correct. Like
that's about right.
There's miracles that are. There's like one attack miracle, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at them now, and in Demon Souls, it's mostly buffs. There is a way.
That religious man who sells the miracles is like, hey, you know what God loves? Miracles.
Fucking miracles.
You know what you do when you cast spells? You're channeling the demons, and so
the specific thing that happens is, or it's one of a few of the more offensive ones. It seemed like they're tied into PvP a little bit, including one that just says like, Black Phantoms, return to your world. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not dealing with you. And that's great. That's fantastic.
I've not encountered a Black Phantom, and the game's still so like I'm almost tempted to like not spend much more time with it until the game's out in the wild, I want like they haven't been invaded yet, and world tendencies not getting impacted because there's just only a handful of thousands playing the game as opposed to millions the next 48 hours. So what
world tendency?
World tendency is so this is part of why
Demon Souls and Dark Souls 2 are the only two I haven't played.
Okay.
So the Demon Souls, part of the reason people have such a soft spot for it and will often consider it their some of Souls is whatever was your first, is your favorite. And then there are just like legitimately interesting design things that From Software got away from after Demon Souls. And one of them is World Tendency, where how often you die and how often other people die affect like the color leaning of the world, which then impacts side quests. It impacts
it changes
like drops.
Yeah, it straight up will change, like it will open and close gates for side activities and stuff.
Shit.
Yes. It'll move
so like depending on like
from one place to another.
Yeah. So there are also, and that was one of those things that I thought, well, I won't blame them, but I would also be disappointed if they decided you know what? That was weird, and they didn't go back to it. So we're just gonna get rid of that in the remake. And instead they kept it, and it's not explained. It's just like you pull up the options menu, and that one part it says world tendency, and it's like, okay,
is it clear what the world tendency and stuff are now in a way?
I didn't look at it too much because there's barely anyone populating the world yet, so I didn't mess with it too much. And because I was going through the first couple of areas, I wasn't dying as much just because I've been here, like I know, once I got to the area leading up to Tower Night, when we have to go across that long bridge. The dragon is pretty fucking good in this game. Like I find it like legitimately terrifying at parts to be running from that dragon. But I was like, I've played this game before. There's got to be a shortcut here I'm missing. And like I did the thing, I like looked it up and was like, nah, you just need to get better at dodging as you run across that gap. And I was like,
you do. Right. The biggest questions for me still. Will there be the cat icon for when you're wearing the catfall ring?
I believe that's been answered.
Yeah? Is the answer yes?
I don't know what the answer... So, for people... there is a cat ring, right? In Demon Souls, in which the image
patches.
Of the cat is just a photo. Yeah. Like a photo of a developer's cat.
Hell yeah.
It's very outside... completely breaks aesthetic. It's not...
That's not true. It's perfect. It really adds up because you could also get the rat ring. And the rat ring is also just a forward-facing... Oh, you got it. Oh, okay. That also has the rat icon, which is just one of the rats from the game shot full bright dead on. The cat is just a cat, though.
That's perfect.
The cat is just a photo of a cat.
That's just a photo of a cat under all those bars. That's amazing.
So I hope.
Please.
I'm begging you. Please.
Demon Souls Wiki. I'm trying to see if it's already been.
Oh yeah, right. You would think by now someone would have got. I don't know. I guess that's
because a lot of people have been streaming it. So I don't know how far.
Area 3 or I can't remember where Patches is. Anyway, I
don't know, but I don't know. I don't know if that's been changed or not.
One other thing I'll note though is I wish this game had any kind of help text about like anything you see in your inventory or your character stat sheet. Like to me, it still feels like I'm flying blind. Like I got a sword that was like
it still does not do like hit triangle to read what these stats do.
It certainly didn't seem to be offering that to me. Like when I would it would pull up. I could bring up details with triangle, but it wasn't
turn it
like
on right now.
It wasn't like here's how this fucking works. So like I don't know, like just a quick flavor of how this just a bit of friction I had with it. I found a bastard sword like early in one of my runs, and stats wise, it is better than my falchion. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'll switch to that. Like it's a heavier weapon, but beyond that, like it just looks better. So I go to switch to it, and it's like, you don't have the stats for that. So you will use it less efficiently. I'm like, cool. Yeah. I follow the logic, but where do I see that I don't have the stats for it? Like there's nothing on the weapon card that says, yo, like you do not have, you're not qualified on a bastard sword. And so like that was kind of an example of like, okay, so what are the relevant stats for this? Like there's damage types, there's like a raft of stats that are.
So I can tell you, I can explain this to you. No, and in some ways this is a testament to Blue Point's
what they've decided to keep and what they've decided to change.
Yeah, like the interface in Demon Souls. Look, there are a lot of things that I wish they had, stuff like world tendency, really ambitious stuff. I wish they'd kept that going forward. Elden Ring, Hold Out Hope. Spencer out there saying the most ambitious game that Miyazaki's ever worked on. Okay. Please maintain that.
Put some mechs in it. We'll talk.
The interface stuff is janky to say the least in Demon Souls, and it's like it's almost never. There is still like so much mystery they leave in there, but there is like more specificity and explanation as the series goes along. So Rob, when you are in your inventory screen, if you hit square on any item, so on the right hand side it shows you like the big fancy character model, and if you hit triangle, that like goes through like your stat sheet
look too pretty,
and like how it impacts you, and then on the left side where it's got all your stuff, if you hit square, it will bring up so there's something called attribute bonus. and it says like E, D. That shows you how it scales along those attributes. So like if you're putting points into strength, you're going to want to not only pick a weapon that looks cool, but a weapon that scales along with strength, because you're going to get damage bonuses out of that. And below that, it says attribute requirements, and it's going to show you the different little, strength, dex, magic, faith, all the different like attributes, and it will show you if it's red, then that means you don't have enough. And then you can look at the number on the right-hand side and see, like, you have to do the work though. Like the game will just not tell you, like, by the way, go upgrade Dex 1 level and then you can equip this stuff. You have to like go and do the math on your own, which is part of the appeal. Like the obfuscation is.
But does it sit down like fully and explain what these attributes do? Because like when you're doing the character select, it's like this character has high luck, and I'm like, luck is a wishy-washy stat in RPGs. Like it sometimes it's important, sometimes it isn't.
Also, stats don't mean anything in a Souls game. Classes don't mean anything in a Souls game. When you pick a class, it's part of why like picking a royal early on is maybe just beneficial, like writ large, because you can just respec as you go along. Like nothing is permanent. And I don't know in Demon Souls, can you just drop all your points and start over? I don't know if they have that feature.
I don't believe there's not someone who can drop you to 0 and to soul.
But either way,
0.
you can grind as many levels as you want and like. It's just like there's nothing permanent in picking a class in Souls. It is literally
it's
just
a starting
you want to start with a little bit of strength
plus some stats. Yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, if you end up like, I found this sword that's a high strength requirement, and I want to wield this sword even though my strength isn't there, just start dumping points into strength.
So wait, Patrick, there isn't a like hit the option button to kind of scroll through everything on this screen and have a little helper explainer text next to it at all?
They did not. That something that you actually, I think they probably should have brought over.
Yeah, surprised they didn't.
I believe in Dark Souls 2 is when they added that. Where like
I think it was Dark Souls 1.
Was it in 1?
I think so.
But yeah, like quite literally, they don't explain what stats do in Demon Souls. So you had to go online, look at a wiki, and be like, because you would look at. Oh no, actually, you know what they do? Hold on. No. When you are, and again, this is where the fuzziness comes in. Right. I don't remember what was in the original, what's in this. When you go to, there's a character you talk to who takes your souls and upgrades. As you are going over, as you scroll over those stats, it explains what those stats do in plain language. It says like, this will increase your stamina. This will increase your item encumbrance. Like this will increase your strength. So,
but there's no way to go like on an item, on like a weapon, for example, hit a button and be like, okay, this is what this attribute is. The way that in later there's like a little menu that you can like just scroll through everything on the screen.
I'm looking at now and
damn,
I'm trying desperately to just find something. I want to find the screen that you're looking at so bad.
And this is stuff that like even now when I started this, it stressed me out. I was like, oh, I hate this part. Even though I know intellectually none of this matters and I can spec my character however I'd like, and just there are locations in this game where you can, get 6 souls like every 3 seconds and just rotate through. I mean, like nothing is permanent, but I both love and hate it. As someone that's like doesn't have a history with D&D, like doesn't really understand, like I came up with console RPGs in which stats didn't, it was like you just bought equipment and equipment changed stats, but you just didn't have to worry about, it's just like
the numbers went up mostly.
The numbers went up and that was important. It didn't matter.
Maybe there's a specific fight where you wanted to make sure you had anti-poison rings on or whatever, but that was it.
But I didn't have to worry about the difference between dex and strength, and that was like one of those like mental model things that the Souls games, they just sort of assume like you have a familiarity with this and like you'll kind of get it or go look it up. And so there are things like that where they have not brought quality of life stuff over in that regard, which is interesting. I'm like it just makes, there's so many interesting things about this as like and maybe this is where we can jump off of this and come back to it later. But just it makes it such a fascinating work because there's such an interesting intersection of like what even is this game, right? Like it's not the original developer. They're making some modernization decisions, but not others. They're keeping a admittedly crummy interface mostly intact.
Which when you see the work that they've done to change the way most of the game looks, it's not like
They're making choices that don't line up with that, right?
Yes,
like where it's like, oh, like this is a line in the sand. This is pure. We're just going to up-res this interface to look in.
We're going to make
it
4K easier for you to walk through the dark tunnel because it's going to be a little bit brighter and the controller is going to vibrate before someone throws a bomb at you. But we're not going to help you understand the difference between piercing and slashing damage.
Right.
Which the thing that's so interesting, we're like, that's it. That's what they're doing. That's where they've drawn the line.
Here's I mean, there are a lot of mysterious things about Demon Souls. There's a lot that goes unexplained, in good ways and bad ways. But there are, I'm gonna be cautious with my words here. There are swings they take. Things happen in the Nexus. Over the course of that game.
Oh yeah.
You get lots of new characters. I guess here's the vaguest way I can put it.
I know what you're saying.
There are lots of character interaction. You get a hub in which it feels like a place. And they do the closest they get to that is in like Dark Souls 2.
Majula.
What's that opening?
Majula.
Yeah, like there's Majula. Like there's still maybe the best music in any Souls game.
Sure.
That's maybe the closest they get to that, but I still think there is nothing quite like the Nexus in any other Souls game, where you have a place that as you go through the game, you have all these sorts of characters, and there are actual like character arcs and dynamics that play out in the Nexus. And there's one in particular that just I blew my fucking mind when it happened, and when people play it, they'll know what I'm talking about. But it is one of the coolest things. Like I was ranking things that happened to me in a Souls game. It has nothing to do with dying or playing or anything. There is something that occurs in the Nexus. Some stuff happens that is truly amazing, and that's where I'm so excited that for people to experience that stuff. Because I presume it's here.
Presumably, hopefully, we'll fucking be here. I'm. This is like always the thing with this stuff. It's like I'm not a purist about much of anything. People find their own ways into things, right? Like they really do, and I'm happy that there is an opportunity for people to do that here. I just wish we lived in a world in which the original was also accessible, where there had been efforts made to make the original playable just as is. Alongside
it doesn't have
to.
You don't have to do a 4K 60 FPS. Just a way to emulate it that went along with this. That was like, hey. We've done this like fancy remaster, but also if you'd like to go back to the original, like as a show of respect for the work, like here's what these original developers intended, and like here's a way to experience that in some way. I really also think that would help nullify like. It like a lot is like Blue, then you can look and say, well, Bluepoint decided to do this because of X, Y, and Z. And you can almost see where they're coming from if you can go and reference the original work. It doesn't put as much burden on them to ride that tension of, letting something exist because that's the way it was versus, well, it makes sense to do this because creatively we think this would be a better experience or something like that.
I've been watching my friends Keith and Kylie over at Run Button play through the Halo is it Anniversary Collection, the one I think it was before Master Chief Collection. I don't know.
The one where Halo 1 and 2 where you could like swap the visuals.
You can swap
the
visuals, and it's I don't expect that of every remake. I don't, but it is really fucking cool to see both of those art styles put against each other, and it's really instructive about the ways in which things, updates, remakes that feel like, oh yeah, this is just how I remember it. This is a natural extension. Actually do make dramatic changes to the way a space feels, to the way a space it kind of is inhabitable. I think a lot about there's like an opening, the opening bit in Halo, or not the opening bit, but once you land on the Halo and you step outside, it turns out that like filling that space with a bunch of additional like foliage and stuff completely changes the atmosphere of that area in a way that makes it feel less alien and feel more like earthly in a way that is like strange and like, okay, well, this is a distinct. I get why you make it look like this, but also
because you looked at it in a modern context and were like, wow, they didn't have the tech to like actually fill anything to make the frame rate work. So we got to put something on this environment,
fucking on the ground here.
Or do you?
But when you look, I don't think you do.
Yeah.
Or you do, but one of the things that's great about that specific version of a remake is you get to see those two things put side by side, and it's like, yo, this is dramatically different. And that is something I wish was available here, and I don't know, I'm so excited to dig into it because it's been a minute since I've played a Souls game. Here's what I'll say: I bet if Nioh 2 had come out on PC, I would feel much different about this, because I'd be like, yeah, I got my fix this year. I got my judging my stamina and attacking and blah 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 fix already. I don't need all that. So maybe it's been saved in some ways by the fact that Nioh 2 still hasn't hit PC. Damn, is Nioh 2 getting a PS5 boost? Is that in the?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it has. So the PS5 reading different the backwards compatibility stuff. Like one of the ways the PlayStation gets slightly better than Xbox, and everything's there's different advantages and disadvantages to each console, but lots of PS4 Pro games that came out in the Pro era have uncapped frame rates, and then when that just gets a natural boost on the PS5, it soars in a way that there just weren't that many uncapped frame rate games on the Xbox comparatively, and so I don't know if Nioh benefits. One thing that's tangential to Demon's Souls is that this game starts in performance mode, but does have a resolution mode where it goes to, again, I don't know the technical specifics, but I presume the difference is it's dynamic resolution as opposed to sticking to straight 4K. The 4K stuff looks like shit. The frame rate looks bad, but I know it's not. I know it's 30 frames a second, but psychologically there is something so, and I mean to write about this, and I might do that today. There's something so strange about being able to swap between the two, because it makes the difference so stark that it literally breaks my brain. Where I've played lots of games at crummy frame rates, 30 frames a second is plenty fine for me.
Yeah. But
the moment you see them quite literally side by side, it makes the resolution version look completely awful. I can tell the difference, but I was swapping between them. I was like, I can't do it. Once I've seen the performance mode, it ruins the resolution mode for me. Had I just started in a resolution mode, I don't know that I would have cared that much. But this is the first time console games truly have had this sort of level of customizability in terms of fidelity, which is normal for the PC, but relatively new for consoles. And it's just strange because this also happened with me with Godfall, where I started in resolution mode and went no, and then
I need that resolution.
Mode and was
I gotta see these dual blades swinging in 60 frames per second in all their glory. We talk about Godfall real quick.
Sure, yeah. I don't know that we're gonna have a Godfall section every week.
We will if Cado has anything to say about it.
Cado, did you dig into Godfall?
We made that Cado's bit, and then he didn't even download the fucking game.
Update
you didn't download it?
It's 60%.
When out of my way to get Cado a code.
I've unlocked 3 different Valor plates. Cado hasn't even installed the game.
No, sorry. Fucking Steam ate up all my bandwidth. Downloading a different
story. You'll never fall to gods like that.
Nah.
Godfall is
what
we expected it to be.
Yeah.
It is. Hey, we are.
It is what we thought it was.
It is a looter slasher.
It's a launch game.
It's a launch game. It's a looter slasher with very arcadey, Souls-inspired combat. I would say R1 light attacks, R2 heavy attacks. You get some special attacks if you hold down L2, you block with L1. There's a skill tree. What's up? What's up?
No,
bro?
You're just also describing Assassin's Creed Valhalla combat.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well. Everything,
yes.
All melee systems now have the language of Souls games.
Yeah, which is an incredible coup, by the way, for FromSoft, a studio that again had 4 launch games on the PS2 and no one gave a fuck about them. What a fucking glow up. It's a game in which you are, getting drops from chests, fighting hordes of enemies.
I dare anyone to watch the opening cutscene to this game and explain to me what's going on.
There's okay,
that's a challenge I'll take up.
There's a god, then it fell. No, there's there's a war. Okay, someone was like, we're gonna do something big, and you were like, I'm gonna help you. And then it turns out that person betrays you and kicks you off the top of
your brother, right?
Your brother? Question mark? Is that real?
But
is it real brother or is it like figurative brother?
Like brother. I don't know.
Brother. Yeah, exactly. Like Twin Snakes style. Cam Clark yelling brother.
I'm just like, it has the most. Like, it feels like someone was like, shit, anyone got a story?
We gotta put a brother against brother. They're fighting each other. Macros tried to kill me. He failed.
Macros, that's right.
His name was Macros. Every time it comes on, like, Macros.
Macros?
It has have you seen the launch trailer for it? Because it has
Robotech?
my very favorite line ever. There's a character who you meet who has like her face is cool. The Seventh Sanctum, she's like an amalgamation of weird robot, a robot fantasy with like floating plates for her face. And in the trailer, she goes, "You are strong, Orin, but not strong enough. You'll need to craft better weapons." And it's like, you can't put that in the trailer. That's like saying you need to hit the Y button to dodge. Like, you need to craft better weapons in the context of video games is empty. It's an empty, like, it's nothing. It's been drained of all of its life. Dead language. And that is this game in a real way. I think listen, the thing I want to give it is like, it fucking goes for its aesthetic. It is an extremely
I think it looks
high
cool
fantasy.
It is. I really like the designs
on all the Valor plates look sick. Like, and I'm not. This is not my wheelhouse, and I still think that they nail it. I think some of the enemy designs are really sick. I wish I liked playing the game more.
Well, it's okay. Like, I mean, the basic ass shit. You lock on, clicking,
right stick, click
R3
in.
or whatever.
Yep.
Except, as a standard in every video game now, you're in Godfall, you're often dealing with like multiple enemies at once, and you're supposed to be able to like, move that right stick right or left, and you can switch the lock on. Nope, not in Godfall.
No,
you have to unclick it and then like wheel the camera around, and then hope when you re-click it, it locks on to the one that you want.
Yeah,
and it's very rare that actually would happen. So I'd often have to like unclick, run away, like try and reset the enemy pattern, like, or not deal with the lock on whatsoever. But this isn't a game like Ghost of Tsushima where, at first in that game, I didn't like that you couldn't lock on to enemies, but then came to understand, they have designed this game around this idea. And once you embrace that, I think it works for what it's trying to accomplish. This game has a lock on, but and doesn't work particularly well when you remove that lock on, because it wants you to engage in parrying is a big part of it. And parrying's like pretty important when you're like in these one-on-one PvE matches. And so I found that really took me out of it. Even as much as like I like the basic ass, like as much as I like playing a Demon Souls where the parry window is extremely small and precise, and there's a satisfaction in nailing that and just donk, like the donk that like that game does, and the sound effects in Demon Souls the remake are pretty, the thud that you get when you lock that parry and you attack a dude is really good. But it's nice to then translate that to one where like I can sit back in my chair and casually hit the L1 button and still get that like thunk and then attack an enemy. And there's a decent enough of that here that, I don't know, this game strikes me as like when I played Diablo 3 with a buddy and we just drank beer and weren't really paying attention to what was going on. It was just like a conversational game. Like Godfall would be good for that. Like I think it is totally competent. It looks pretty. Dude, you could do worse if you're looking for something like this.
Yeah, the thing for me ends up being, does it have legs to support its long RPG aspirations? Like, so for instance, there are 12 Valor plates. These are the classes of this game. And they all look sick.
Yeah, well, it pretends they're classes.
Yeah,
it's really just like, which one do you think looks cool? Because the difference between them is not that different. Also, the game appears to treat all status effects exactly the same.
Dude, this is what I'm saying.
Burn.
What's it mean to ignite?
Ice,
you take damage
bleed,
over time.
Exactly,
it's all
the
damage
same
over
thing.
time. I was like,
which one do you think is cooler? Fire,
Or curse.
blood.
Yeah, do you want the cool? Do you want the evil looking Valor plate that has faces all over?
I do.
It?
I want the one that does curse. That one looks
She
cool.
looks sick as hell. But what's she do? All she does is that she does curse stuff. That's the only difference. There's some sort of constellation augment thing that maybe over the long period of time, like what upgrades you're putting in are going to be different. But like on first blush, I expected Warframe differences, which I wanted this to be my Warframe. Guys, I really wanted this to be my Warframe. And it's not going to be my Warframe because these aren't as cool as Warframes. Warframes have different distinct powers. They have different abilities. You get builds differently. They use the same weapons like in Godfall, but there's real distinction there. The fact that like the bug one that has wings can't like hover or fly, like what are you doing? Yeah. Why? It's just the moment you should have seen my face the moment I realized that curse, fire, ice, shock, and elite poison, and at least one other one, water or something, whatever, are all just damage over time without like, it's not like fire jumps from person to person. It's not like poison reduces enemy damage dealing. Like it's 100% just dots. And that was like, oh, y'all really just
dots everywhere.
Dots everywhere.
Well, not only that, there are story missions, and then there are things called hunts. Yeah, where it's like go back out into the realm, the world, and go fight like a bigger enemy. And I was like, oh, go fight this big dog, tiger, cat, dog thing. Yeah. And I was like, okay, because you have to collect enough of these certain objects to unlock the next story mission, which I'm sure is just a way of getting you to grind a couple of levels to power up, which is fine. And I liked the combat enough to go do that. And then, I go and find this big dog thing, and I'm in the middle of that fight, and I get like 3/4 through its health, and it gets me, and I'm like, all right, like let's do it again. Well, I hit checkpoint, and I go back to the fight, and that enemy still has 3/4 of their health gone. The game is continuous. It does not restart a fight. Anytime you die, whether it's against a boss fight or in a skirmish, the game says, you know what?
You got this.
Just come on back. Like, just, I know you got nearly all the way through that fight. Just finish it off.
But just finish it off.
And I found that just incredibly deflating.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Maybe when you're just, there are sequences where you don't necessarily need even to do a quest. You can just be exploring the world. That makes sense for it to be continuous, where in the middle of like a random scrum of enemies, just let you come back because you're trying to find the chest that's behind them.
You're
like,
just grinding for
I get
mats,
that.
basically.
It's low stakes. But the moment that you've carried that over into a battle of some import, it just makes me not want to care about what I'm doing in the fight, because it ultimately doesn't matter that I've and it has some interesting ideas, like the parrying can happen to, so like three like variations of an enemy attacking you, like a regular attack and like whatever version of that they have based on the enemy type. If they charge red, that's an unblockable, and that means you have to get out of the way and dodge. There's nothing you can do except just move out of their path. If they charge blue, that one you're like really encouraged to parry, because you're going to extend the window that they're stunned. And so like there's interesting stuff like that where you're trying to pay attention to what they're doing and respond to that in sort of a rock paper scissors sort of way. But again, like what's the point in me caring about that if I die, I hit X.
There's a really tough boss fight in the Destiny 2 expansion that we'll talk about in the second half of the show. And there's a really tough boss fight in the Genshin Impact update that also dropped, which really quick. That stuff is great. It wraps up the Liyue chapter really well. The boss fight in it fucking rules. Like it's so cool. And both of those really pushed me. The Destiny one I must have tried like 10 times. Really like a hard fucking fight for the way where I was geared. And that was frustrating, but it was nowhere near, but I wanted to beat it. Whereas the second I lost a boss fight with like a little bit of health left in Godfall, and then immediately it's respawned me just outside the boss fight, and the boss had the same amount of health. I was like, oh, I don't care about this. I'm done with this game now.
I don't care that you're named.
Right.
Like
you're no one to me. Right, you've just told me that I am infinitely more powerful than you. You don't get to come back. If I kill you, you don't get to run back into the arena. That would actually be hilarious. Like if they were like, I can also do that. There's some other way you have to kill me. That would be sick. Make that game.
And they do like another cool mechanic is so as you do a light attack, you are building up this meter basically. Like every time you hit, you'll see there's like a white bar that goes around their health, and if you fill that meter and then hit R2, do the heavy attack, you do like a soul break. I forget what the actual terminology
is. Soul shatter.
But yeah, soul shatter. Like you can then hit with that entire health and like and do this mega attack by stringing together the light attacks that fills a meter. Then you do the heavy attack, they soul shatter. There are certain enemies that take no damage from light attacks, but you have to hit with a light attack to increase their soul shatter state. And then so like there are all these like little like again like it was kind of a bit about us like playing this game, but like the bit turned into I actually think I might want to play this game. Like this could be a cool like. Hey Austin, you just want to like fuck around in like a Godfall for 90 minutes and we'll whatever, just like go on a couple of hunts. Great. And like immediately, like the checkpoint thing is the thing that really did it for me. It was like a lot of other things I could find excuses for, and then once that happened, I was like, oh, this is just spam R1 with no consequences, and I wouldn't be shocked if they added like a patch that was like, yeah, just like that doesn't do that anymore. Like you die and like have to start. I mean, because I don't know. I found it really deflating. I mean, the environments are super generic and whatever, but I was willing to kind of look past a bunch of that stuff.
I hope it finds an audience that can stick with it as they continue to try to maybe improve some of these things, but I don't know. That audience will not include me, unfortunately. Give it. Listen, again, I think the aesthetics are really there. I think that they like took a big swing at a look that is easy to laugh at, and instead they landed that. And I think that the foundations of the way the combat feels is totally there. But a lot of the things that are supposed to like you can't just build a scaffold. A scaffold has to build you something else. Anyway, that's Godfall. Rob, you did bring up Assassin's Creed Valhalla there. I'm guessing you put some time into it?
Like, only the very start. I'm playing it on Series X. And I gotta say, like, I might... Doesn't seem great, Austin, in terms of Series X performance. There's a few things. There's, like, weird sound artifacts on the soundtrack where, like, I'm getting, like, little bursts of, like, squeals or, like, static and in just places. Not
those are just the British fleeing from your might. The little squeals. No,
okay. Actually, no. Sorry, that is happening with Watch Dogs on Series X. That is where I'm getting.
Those are also just the British fleeing from your might.
Yeah, it's you're terrorizing English people. No, with Valhalla, the issue I'm running into is it keeps like right now. I played for like 3 hours last night. All my saves from it say data is corrupted, so I'm super excited to see what happens when I like run from those saves again, because midway through it started saying, we can't talk to the Ubisoft Connect servers. And so I'm like, did their always online shit? Actually, let me get to the bottom of this right now. Cause like I played just enough of that game that if all that progress is wiped, I'm never going back. It's got a good opening, but I'm not doing like the 3 hours of like Ivor. Now go, go wander the frozen wastes of Norway for 20 minutes. Do we know what happened?
Why did it?
It has something to do with their online services. I had, because I first started getting errors when I was taking photos, and at first they were uploading as normal, and then I started getting like, this couldn't upload errors. And I'm not entirely sure what that was about.
Yeah.
And then when it came time for me to wrap up, it gave me little messages like, hey, your data is corrupt. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Game looks good. But yeah, both the Ubisoft flagships of this release season do seem like they are maybe still like figuring out the whole Series X thing. Beyond that, I will say it does feel fully like it's Witcher-fied. Like it feels at this point, the evolution we saw underway with Origins and Odyssey seems to have been completed with Valhalla. And I think that's mostly a good thing.
So Ubisoft has gone full Witcher just in time for Cyberpunk to disappoint and for them to announce a new Witcher game and go running back to that.
That thought crossed my mind as I was playing it. Is Ubisoft like looked at Witcher and was like, we're just going to copy that because that's, an open world with story and progression systems holding together slightly underwhelming mechanical system. Sure, that we could do that. Whereas, it'd be very funny if CD Projekt is like at the end of this, oh fuck, we are not immersive sim developers, are we, guys?
That's a different genre.
Yeesh. Turns out wearing out the VHS of Demolition Man and Blade Runner didn't teach us a lot about American culture either. So, that
Netflix show was awfully popular, isn't it?
Yeah, so, like, I will say I've enjoyed the opening hours. The combat does feel better than it has in a while in terms of, like, boss fights. I just need to... You know how quarterbacks have checkdowns? That little thing on their wrist where it's, like, just, here's what you call... here's... I need to basically have something on my wrist that says, don't go for that last hit. Just don't do it. Like, and this holds true for Demon Souls. It holds true.
I was going to say, says the guy who's just starting Demon Souls and hasn't gotten to a boss yet.
I need to stop being like, I've staggered this guy. Now just to go ham. And like, I need to stop doing it.
You gotta go watch the Natalie Bloodborne streams and listen to all of us be like, all right, don't get greedy. Back off. Remember, you got your 2 hits in. Going for a third or especially a fourth is not necessary.
I think we just
beak. Just let me dip my beak in that pool of
maybe
damage.
Rob should not play any more Demon Souls. This should be our post-vaccine treat, and we're just all gonna watch Rob play a Souls game together.
Oh, that would be so good.
Fuck.
Oh, I would love this. First,
Natalie teaches Rob how to play Bloodborne.
Oh yeah, I love this, dude.
You can't load it.
It's
not loading. Well,
no, all my autosaves, all my stuff says data corrupt.
So I will say, Rob, this seemed to happen to a couple of press people, so this may be specific to us.
Okay.
Great.
Well, could be. It looks like my game is where I left it, so I didn't lose all that. As long as I keep that game open, I guess I didn't lose that progress. But
I would.
Yeah,
I would. I know what happened to Gene Park at Washington Post, so I believe people straight up just lost progress. But I think that might be related to us and not necessarily the wider.
Yeah, but I waited. I was a good boy. I waited until they said it was available.
I'm with you. I just haven't. I have heard that from a bunch of press people, so I just.
Yeah,
maybe
I have concerns because, like, again, it has a strong opening, but Assassin's Creed openings are really drawn out. I am like halfway through its opening, like prologue act, and
what did Galt say? 8 hours to the title card.
Yeah, God. So like it cannot do this to me.
Yeah.
Like the first time I found the lady's comb and she was like, "You want to have sex?" It was funny, but like I don't think I want to go get that comb again. For
damn, sex wasn't good. That's what I'm hearing. There was a lot of talking around it, and then an Ubisoft cut to like that was great. Same time of day, same. How it always is. Yeah, how it always is. Yeah, just standard.
After a good bout in bed, like 2 people are just sitting there being like fully clothed, same way they were. Just being like, that's great.
In their armor. Yeah.
You were very good at sex. I want to reassure you, you were fantastic.
I hope we get to do this again one day. Yeah. You'll never see me again. This is a 90-hour RPG. You will not remember my face or my name. I'll show up in a quest in 42 hours, and you'll go, "Who are you again?"
Yeah, pretty much. There will be a dialogue option that says, "Oh yeah, you're Fietier." And on the Amira's house, we had that good
I'm so
sex.
Glad. And I'm like, I'm glad you remembered my name.
Person.
Right, exactly. And now my dad has been locked up by a prison, and I need you to help me get him out. And this is going to be a big dramatic exchange because you'll remember me, of course.
And your supporting characters. There's a very good chance you will not survive this quest.
No.
If we, yeah.
Oh, God. We should take a break, unless there's anything else we want to say before the Destiny hour sneaks in, but I don't think there is. Oh, I started playing, I played a little bit of Teardown, which is an early access.
Oh, that's that voxel.
That voxel-based... No? Yeah, voxel-based...
Voxels? Okay.
Kind of heist sim, in which what you're doing is, like, you get a bunch of objectives in a big open area, and those objectives are things like steal or dump 3 cars into the water. And at least one of the cars is set up to an alarm. And once the alarm goes off, you have to try to escape the premises within 60 seconds. Or like break into these 3 places and fuck with their electronics. But the first one is, again, tied to an alarm. And so what you're doing is like using sledgehammer, blowtorch, shotgun, which is good for like heavy things like bricks. You're building almost an escape route through this kind of sandbox of various places. And triggering the alarm, finishing your objectives, getting the fuck out really quick. It's extremely fun. It's still early access, so I'm like debating how much more I want to play, but it has that thing of like, all right, I'm supposed to go I'm supposed to go destroy this boathouse and make it sink into the fucking sea. What's the most fun way of doing that? And also did something that I thought was like, there's an attention to detail in the environments that really works, which is I was in someone's house, and everything's always empty. There's no NPCs as far as I can see, besides like a helicopter that comes to catch you if you trigger an alarm. There was a house, and I was on the first floor of it, and I was like, something's wrong about this fucking house. Something's off. I was like, there's more space in the floor plan than there is in this set of rooms. That wall is fucking fake. That wall, there's something behind. And I pulled a painting off the wall and I sledgehammered the wall and there was a chest inside with valuables. And I was like, this is the best game ever made. This is the fact that it produced that sense in me that there was something wrong about this space. And then they rewarded me for finding that wall and knocking it down. Incredible. And you get the money, you get money from valuables. You use that money to upgrade your equipment and like bring more shotgun shells, have more fuel for your blowtorch, stuff like that. So it just felt incredible. It's really cool. There's enough of a game there to go have a good time for a few hours now. I might wait until it's all the way done before I like go hard on it, but it's really good. The soundtrack is phenomenal. There's like a jazz heist score for when you try to escape a place. They could have gone like cartoony and instead they went like, no, we're going to score this like it's cinema, and it works. So that's Teardown. I'm really enjoying that. What I put into that. That was a couple of weeks ago, but I'm glad I remembered. I'm glad I looked at Steam for a second. I was like, oh wait, I remember I played Teardown. That's where I'm at.
The last thing I don't have a ton of thoughts. I do want to write about it eventually, but I finished Hades.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
I got more credits.
Yeah.
Well, it's it's like is finished. There is an epilogue that I could do. But I got the end credits where the game can kind of like says to you like if you don't want to do any more of this, like you're good. And yeah, it's just wild how that game, I spent 15 hours banging my head against it, trying to wrap my head around it, and then I beat it once, and then I had a couple of busted runs following up that, and then I just strung off 8 in a row and just beat the game 8 times in a row, which is less of a. Now, granted, like every time I posted that, and I would say what my escape like number was, I beat it at 35, which is really like low. I take to those games, and so like that, I had to like work people. I was like, don't get discouraged. Like this is not most people. They're in like the 70s and 80s when they get to this point. But like the arc for where you get to where it all just clicks into place, and you're not articulating why you're able, like the boss fight with the duo, like the third the third boss fight, which gave me so much trouble for so long. Where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get over, like if I'm going to get this frustrated at this fight for so long, I don't know, man. And then now it's just like I'm good. Like I got this no matter what sort of like setup I go into it with. And I haven't felt that way since Spelunky. Like Spelunky got to the same point after like 80 hours or so, was just I could blow through areas, and you can still fuck up, but the ability to just like internalize so much of a video game to a degree that you don't even have to, it's almost difficult to articulate it. Like if you were to ask me, what am I doing moment to moment and why, if I sat there and thought about it, I could probably get it across, but the fact that you just kind of like do all that silently after a run after run after run is, it's very cool. I love that game. It's probably my favorite game of the year if I had to throw a dart at the wall now. But Hades is very good.
Awesome.
And I'll do that epilogue whenever they do an expansion.
Yeah,
because my guess is they'll do at least one.
That makes sense.
And then I'll come back around to get the epilogue. You have to fill out like your relationships with a bunch of characters, which means getting item drops. Right. It's just a bunch more runs.
It's just do those runs. It's not about winning. It's about just seeing characters. Some drops.
So I read what happens just so I could like close the loop on the game in my head. And I'm curious to see where either they or someone else takes it. I think the story in that game is fine. I think the characterization is really good, but the story is sort of pretty straightforward, but the narrative design is really fascinating. And so I'm curious to see other folks pick up the mantle of what Supergiant accomplished, because I think it's an interesting structure. It's an interesting structure that like when I say that I didn't find the story interesting, like it's because the narrative structure itself is so breathtakingly interesting in and of itself that I think there's just a lot more for people can do with that in the future. So
cool.
Hades
still good. Let's take a break. We're gonna tag Gita in so we can talk about some Destiny. Patrick, you're leaving. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Patrick Klubik, where I will, when this is up, there'll be 1,000 words on Demon Souls that you can read. There we go. Waypoint.vice.com. Rob, you're also heading off, right?
Yep.
All right, Rob, where can people find you?
At Rob Zachney.
All right. We will be right back with some Destiny. Until then, probably listen to an advertisement for something. I don't know. All right, we're back. Gita Jackson has joined us.
Yo, what's up?
To talk about Zavala.
I was immediately before this recording reading the lore book, The Dark Future. You know, Ishtar Collective puts all the lore books up on their website the day for Destiny 2, in case you were wondering what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yes,
the Destiny 2 lore books up on their site the day of release, and I was like, I'm going to get most of these in the game, but probably not all of them. So why don't I just read all of them? And The Dark Future truly is the, like, what's that DC fighting game that's Mortal Kombat but with
Injustice?
superheroes? Yeah, it's Injustice.
Damn.
But I realized through reading it, I really fuck with Commander Zavala in a way that I did not realize.
Wait, is that book like an alternate future in which
Superman it's the future that the Exo Stranger comes from.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So wait, the Exo Stranger is Trunks.
Yeah.
Yes, the Exo Stranger is Trunks, 100%.
The Exo Stranger who's Frieza in this scenario? Who does the Exo Stranger show up and just like and then does all the gang signs and then does like
some random Vex in Destiny 1?
I guess that's true.
Right?
It's
just some random Vex.
Yeah.
Shit.
Trunks is cool as shit. Give the
Trunks is cool as shit.
Give the Exo Stranger a Capsule Corp jacket. I'm begging you. Let Destiny characters wear streetwear.
God.
Oh my God. Yes, please.
Only. If only.
Anyway, we're here to talk about Destiny 2 Beyond Light, the new expansion that dropped a couple days ago, a few days ago, as of this recording, which is the second full expansion that they've dropped since leaving Activision, or just the first full one?
This is the first full one. Shadowkeep was the first one
they would have made from the jump post Activision.
Yes,
right?
100%.
Okay.
Shadowkeep was like kind of half in, half out, basically.
Right.
But this is the first full one, totally independent.
For people who are like curious.
Studio, Bungie.
Right. For people who are curious about it, but who don't know what like the gist of it is, or people who like followed along with some Destiny stuff enough to want to listen to us talk about it, but not necessarily enough to play it themselves. The premise of this is that the darkness has arrived in the system. The darkness, which has been threatening to return since Destiny 1 launched. The darkness, which in the world of Destiny, the Traveler, this big orb, this big egg arrives, helps us, leads humanity into a golden age, and then the darkness theoretically, or supposedly shows up, fucks everything up, but then humanity rebuilds with the help of the Traveler, who creates guardians, these deathless soldiers who are empowered by the light of the traveler and who make their way throughout the system to kind of pick through the ruins of the Golden Age and also fight off threats from the other major antagonists who follow the darkness here, or do they come before the darkness? I don't know the timeline there. Regardless, it gets kinda fuzzy. Right, it does get a little fuzzy. At this point, at the end of the last, or I guess the last big expansion, Shadowkeep, and then the seasons that followed it indicated that the darkness was coming for real this time. These black pyramid ships, which we've known would have been coming since Destiny 1, since before Destiny 1 dropped, because it was in concept art that was shown off at a GDC. These pyramid ships first were found in the first mission of Shadowkeep. One of them just shows up, you just see it, and a bunch of weird kind of darkness nightmares, kind of resuscitated versions of things you once fought. You're forced to fight again, and then over the course of the last few seasons of the game, the darkness has gotten ever closer, and that culminated last week in a big event where you got to go to a different part of the last city, the last human city on Earth, and see the orb heal itself while the darkness slowly crept in and devoured the planets that got vaulted. Because this is also an expansion in which Nessus is still there. Io
was there.
Is still here?
I was not there. Nessus is still there. Yeah.
Nessus is still there. So Io, what else?
Mercury,
Mars,
Titan, and Mars.
Titan and Mars are gone now. So stuff from previous Destiny 2 content supposedly swallowed by the darkness. And in order to try to figure out how to push back on that stuff, and also in order to stop a growing new leader of the Fallen, my favorite faction in this game, you travel out to Europa, where this Kell of Kells, this new leader of the Fallen, now united around her, someone who, we come to learn has a long history with the world of Destiny and has a unique perspective on some of the events, has herself come to learn how to use some of the powers of the darkness. And you're joined there I guess, the Extra Stranger, the Drifter, and Eris Morn, three characters who themselves have clearly been, let's say, heterodox to the more traditional members of the Vanguard and the leadership of the Guardians. And you go to Europa, which is this incredibly icy moon that's covered in storms, and also is a place where a bunch of weird super science took place years ago, tied to the creation of exos and strange very, let's say less than humane science experiments by the late Clovis Bray, an important character in the lore. And you go there to effectively investigate this fallen uprising, or this group that's learning how to use the darkness, and to commune with the darkness yourself, to tap into something beyond the light, to try to figure out to what degree that's safe to do, to figure out what degree maybe that's better to do. And you fight a bunch of bosses and you do some Destiny shit. What did y'all think? So just to be clear, Cado, Destiny lifer, Gita,
100%.
Deeper into Destiny than me at this point, because I know you've been running raids with Cado now for the last few months.
Yeah, me and Cado wanted to do, Cado suggested to us, me and a couple of my friends that have been playing Destiny as a sort of a group of three, doing just getting on the game and just running strikes and just shooting the shit. Suggested us that we do the raids that would also be going away with the release of this new expansion. And so we did 5 raids, and we really cut it up to the wire.
Yeah. We finished that last one. Was that Saturday? No.
Yeah, Saturday.
Right. Yeah.
Damn.
Saturday before the expansion dropped on Tuesday.
I'm absolutely getting the raid ring. I've decided. I thought about how fucking irritating the Spire was, and I was like, I gotta commemorate the stupid thing I did.
That was some shit.
God, yeah, raids are hard, but it's really gratifying to just sit down and do a really hard puzzle with a bunch of your friends. I was really enjoying it, and not only that, but for the last couple, schedules didn't work out perfectly, so our original team couldn't get together fully. We had some pinch hitters, and hearing Emmy give me props for improving my timing on the Crown of Shadows raid. I really, really felt that. Like, I felt so proud.
Yeah.
Made me so happy.
God.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, it's I got into Destiny really truly on a whim. Like, Maddie Myers from Polygon said she was playing it because they were gonna on Triple Clip, her podcast with these two guys named Kirk and Jason. I don't know if you know about these guys. Just some weird losers that love video games a lot. They play so much Destiny. They were gonna stream some Destiny, and she was like, I better learn how to play Destiny so I can keep up with them. So we just started playing, and then I found myself like finally getting into the lore in a real way, and now it's the only thing that feeds me anymore.
You are like a member of the Elixir, except instead of feeding off of ether, you feed off of lore. That's
lore drops
to live.
Yeah, essentially. I just
yeah.
Read the new lore books today. Yes.
Insect chittering, like is it chattering? I don't forget if it's chattering or chittering in this.
Yeah.
Regardless, this expansion's out. I'm curious, given both of you having deeper relations with this game, deeper relationship with this game. Cado especially is someone who I think has tracked this. You've been synonymous with Destiny for me for a long time. What do you think of Beyond Light?
I mean, here's the thing is that given that I've been playing it for so long, I have a very specific viewpoint that I also can see past, which is where I'm at with this expansion right now, where I myself am fucking loving it. Like, I'm enjoying it so much. I'm having a ton of fun. And part of that is mostly like I'm really enjoying the narrative because I'm being able to go through it at like a steady beat. But I understand the way that they've set this up, the way that they set up the leveling curve for this is giving people a lot of issues. And it's one of those things where like I was able to avoid that through both knowing the game well enough that I can always play it at a deficit of 20 levels anyways, right? Which is like playing the game on hard mode, right? It's like this weird thing where they don't have difficulty options other than being at level or under leveled, right? So I like the game at that state, especially when I'm playing solo. Like I think it's really
like
challenging
playing on heroic or something on
like Halo,
right?
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. And so I've been able to kind of get through the campaign and really enjoy kind of like where the stories are going. And but like I keep seeing people talk about how the leveling curve is all fucked up. And it's because
go ahead.
Well, part of it is because they don't do a good job of explaining exactly how leveling even works in the first place. And even when you like explaining it, it's incredibly fiddly. It's incredibly this thing that doesn't actually make a lot of intuitive sense. It makes sense to me because I've had to deal with it for fucking 7 years.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to explain power then?
Yes.
Because that's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. Your power level.
I bought Destiny at launcher PS4. And then I get the new light version on Steam because now I play games mostly on PC. And when I got back into it, I feel like most of the things I learned about how to play Destiny and what to do in the game, I learned just from talking to Cado. Like I literally I got my brother to download New Light also because he lives on the West Coast. I'm not going to see him for a while.
Sure.
And I wanted to figure out something we could do together and just like spend time with each other because our family canceled Thanksgiving this year. It's just not going to happen. We're going to have a Zoom call. So, like I know that like a lot of playing Destiny with him is going to be being like, okay, so you want to select this quest and then we're going to go to the Cosmodrome and then you're going to talk to this guy. And like, that's just going to be a lot of what we do in Destiny for a while.
Yeah.
So specifically power leveling, like the power level and how it works is confusing because essentially every piece of gear you've got 3 slots of weapons and 4 slots of armor. Each of those things has an individual power score. You start off at 1050. Everyone starts off at 1050. That is the new like lowest level you can be. Now, as you get different pieces of loot, They will be randomly for one of those slots, and before you hit 1200, most of those drops are going to be at a plus 3 to +5 in whatever that single slot is. So
sometimes you get a big one and it feels great.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get like a 12 or something.
And some
and
shit,
you're
and you're
like, yo,
what's up? What's good? We're making fucking gains now.
Yeah.
And you put that into your, let's say you get a helmet that's like 10 levels above. You put that in, and that does that because your total overall level is an average of all those things. It's not going to raise it all the way up, right?
Right.
To like the same level as that helmet or whatever. You get like a couple points boost or whatever, depending on how the math shakes out. But basically, what that means is if you get another random drop that is also a helmet, and it's not also a +10, even if it is a +10, it will be the same one as your current helmet.
Yes.
Because it's based on your average. The average is what it does the calculation based off of, and not like what's in each individual slot. So you have to basically, until you hit 1200, until you're dealing with the powerfuls, which is its own different system, basically just leveling from world drops. The way I do it is I keep a slot, like there's space in my inventory always. And the second I see something pop up, I equip it and it delete the old thing that I was wearing that was lower light, basically. And I keep playing that, and you end up playing with a lot of blues, which normally
all
are
the way up. Which means leaving behind exotics that you like or purples that you think are cool.
Yeah.
Because the blues are what get your power level higher and keep you just moving.
And like I hang on to those purples because eventually I will want to infuse those purples up to the right level. But until you get there, it's not really worth spending the material, because that material to infuse things is expensive.
Rare. Yeah.
It's hard to get, and like you can buy it from Banshee, but it's like a ton of materials from like it's
from a bunch of different stuff,
planet materials, shards from destroying gear and glimmer, and like in large enough amounts that it's like, oh, I don't want to be doing this willy-nilly. I don't want to be just bringing up old gear. I always want to just keep using the new gear.
So I actually sidestepped this thing that we're talking about. There was definitely a pushback or not a pushback, but I definitely saw some folks surprised at the need to stop doing main content and go level via patrols and public events. But I dodged that because I rolled a new character for this, and I got to see the new is it called New Light? Is that the new player experiences?
I believe that's
name
just
at this
the
point?
base game of Destiny.
It's called New Light
without paying for it. It's just called New Light, and that includes,
that's not what I did.
That includes the new. Yeah, that includes the new player. Yes.
So this is new, and I want to say, I've been pretty harsh on Destiny in terms of the way it gets new players into its content for the last couple of years. They've gotten better at it. I don't know, Gita, when you jump back in, but when I last tried to start a new character just to see what it was probably Forsaken. And I remember being completely like, how could anyone ever make sense of this? There's so much legacy content. You don't even know where to go to start. If I wanted to play the Red War, I wouldn't have even known where to go by default to start whatever the beginner content was. And they just wanted you to like jump right into whatever the new stuff was without any sort of onboard or on-ramp. Now you start in the Cosmodrome. Which I think you did back then too. They added the Cosmodrome, like a little bit of one mission,
introductory mission, one mission that did
now
not explain anything.
Now the Cosmodrome exists closer to a state to what it was in Destiny 1, which filled me with a lot of nostalgia. I really like going back to the Cosmodrome. It feels cool as shit. And you run a bunch of missions for this character named Shawhan, which, as Luke Smith has noted, is the name of two different Fast and the Furious characters, who I think you shouldn't put those names together for lore reasons in Fast and the Furious. I think it's rude, frankly. But Shawhan is like, a guardian in over his head who's lost some friends and needs your help to kind of like get some quick vengeance and also not get himself buried further. I don't even know if you can do those quests if you don't meet him originally. Do you? If you go back to
my introduction to Shawhan was through Beyond Light.
There's a point where they send you to him.
They send you to the Cosmodrome to be like, oh, by the way, we put this in the game too. Like a low.
Right. That is totally what it is.
There is just like in Forsaken, where you were talking about like, how do I get to the Red War campaign? Oh, it's over by Amanda fucking Holiday or whatever. There's a new kiosk next to the postmaster where you can pick up the quest and play as a continuing player. You can still play this new light, the new introduction. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and do it. I'm interested.
You should do it just to see it. I think.
Yeah, I totally want to do that. I didn't even know that.
It's really
Cado.
Smart. It's right. Totally. Again, they're still not great at signposting
unhealthy amounts of this game for the past like 3 days, and I never saw that kiosk. What the fuck?
It's great. It's you meet one character. The character has motivations.
Right.
Like there's an enemy. There's a hive wizard who fucked him over. You want to stop that hive wizard. You have the Cosmodrome, which is just big enough to have a couple of places for public events to pop off. You learn what a bounty is. You learn what, like, all of the very basic building, you learn where the quests are. Also, if you're a new character, your quest screen isn't overflowing with a billion things.
Right.
Which, by the way, is just the best part of this expansion, is that it deleted old quests I'm never going to complete.
High key, like, part of the best thing about vaulting half the game, essentially, was that I don't have to worry about the shit that happened on those planets anymore.
Yeah,
that I
totally.
still have quest lines open for.
There is, and it ends with a quest to get Risk Runner. That's where it ends. It ends with you going to get Risk Runner, which sends you back to the EDZ. And Risk Runner is an especially good weapon for Beyond Light because you're fighting somebody fallen who use electric damage. Yeah. Also, I have the catalyst for Risk Runner, and I don't know if that's just they gave it to me, or if I earned it at some point when I didn't remember it. But I'm happy to have it.
I got Risk Runner. I was trying to finish the Cade 6's quest line because I wanted to hear all the audio logs, and then the Cade 6 questline for getting his iconic gun, Ace of Spades. And then I saw that it had involved doing a bunch of shit in the fucking Crucible, and I was like, I'm not going to do that.
I'm good, actually. I'm fine.
Absolutely not.
I feel you. That's also me. I'm mad we didn't get... Cado tried to run me through to get Outbreak Prime, is that right?
Yeah, we were so fucking close.
We were probably a minute off, and I had to get the door during the first 2 minutes of it, which stopped me by 60 seconds. To this moment, I'm like, if I hadn't had to go get the door, I would have we would have gotten Outbreak Prime, because they also just gave the catalyst to that to anybody who has it now.
Damn.
Anyway,
I'm pretty sure that when to get that quest, you do the Risk Runner thing first, I think, or maybe I just did because I was trying to figure out how to trigger that quest. And when I got Risk Runner, I also had the catalyst. I just masterworked it from using it so much on just hordes of enemies in Beyond Light.
Yep.
It's really good.
There's no reason to run anything else in Beyond Light.
So that's, dude, it's so good. It's so good. It's
very good.
And it's it's fun to have one exotic where every 50 light levels or 50 power levels. I wish they just went back to calling it light, but I guess it doesn't make sense now because you're working with the darkness too. Interesting. Makes you think. Every 50 power levels, I'm like, oh, I should, let me just transfuse it now. And I know I'm wasting these materials to do this, but let me just keep Risk Runner in good condition. That shit's too important for me right now. What do you think?
All these blue guns I'm not going to use except to feed to my other guns. Low-key Destiny is I learned how to play Destiny through gacha games.
Through gacha games,
I'm pulling girls to feed to other girls except their guns.
Except their guns. And when you think of it that way, it starts to make sense why people are so in their feelings about stuff getting vaulted. I think the other big response I've seen is people being upset about the degree to which guns got vaulted and not replaced with new stuff. I've seen a lot of people hey, there aren't enough purples for me to chase here. And I'm not at that point in this expansion yet, but I don't know if either of you feel that way or even engage with the game in that way.
It definitely does feel like right now the loot pool is a little bit small. I'm getting copies of guns as quest rewards that I already have in my vault. And that does not feel awesome.
Here's the thing about that for me, though, is that when you get the same copy of a gun, and if it's higher level, you can feed it into the old gun by just using Glimmer, the most common resource.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know. Okay.
So
but
getting
the guns
copies
are in my vault because I don't like them.
Right.
That's
fair.
That's fair.
And it doesn't feel good. I think part of what people want from an expansion is new shit, right? It's just show me the new shit. And I want a new fit. I want new, I want to see new models.
There's a set of new gear that is specific to Europa, but those are generally unlocked by quests. So it's gonna be it's a much longer, and those are all post-campaign quests too. So
okay, is that the stuff that looks like furry? That looks like winter wear, or is there another
you get some of that during the there's like 3 different armor sets that you get throughout the game. One of them's from like the seasonal the season pass, basically the like little battle pass thing that you can get stuff from. One of them is that furry like parkas for Europa stuff. Those are from quests from Variks, and that I love that shit. That great.
Shit looks so good.
So good.
I'm excited to start earning that stuff.
Can we have a quick sidebar and just talk about Variks for like 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, one thing about this expansion is, and the sort of vaulting and sort of bringing back of old locations, is that I am a player that did not play Destiny 1. Right. And I hopped on Destiny 2 because I worked at Kotaku when Jason and Kirk both worked there.
Right,
and
sure.
That was like a whole experience. When Destiny 2 dropped, it was just sort of like, you couldn't avoid it, you know? Yeah. So I hopped in it because I wanted to see what was up. I liked it, and then I fell off because I think I had a lot of the same problems that people have with Destiny 2 in the beginning of the game. Like, you reach a certain point where you're like, why am I leveling up? Like, for what? And then I literally didn't drop back in until this year. My light level for my other character, my warlock, it was like 750 until Beyond Light came out. So I'm meeting a lot of these characters that they've brought back as sort of legacy characters for the very first time. And I'm going to these locations for the very first time. And I'm discovering a lot of the things that players fall in love with in terms of its writing and lore that come from the first game. And one of these guys is Variks the Loyal.
Hell yes.
Variks the Loyal is like I've heard him described as the token good fallen. But he is. He's the fallen that talks to our guardian to sort of explain fallen culture to us and like what it's done to it. Fallen have like some very, very interesting lore. They were touched by the Traveler, and the Traveler just went away. And
this is the thing is like, fuck. They're the alternate future that actually already happened. Do you know what I mean? They're the evidence of don't fucking trust the Traveler. They always have been. Like the moment I played Destiny 1 and realized, they have little Travelers that they lost the real Traveler, so they built these servitors, these like orbs that follow them around that they're fucking attached to live. Is like it's so good. It's so also they're sick. They've been sick.
When you headshot them and you can see the remaining light come out of their body, their soul.
It's so good. It's so fucking good. Anyway, Variks, as you were saying.
Variks is great. I mean, there's something so funny to me about the combination of like regal alien culture, like insectoid alien culture, plus a little touch of understanding human humor that just really sends me for some reason. And every time Variks talks, I'm just like, you're precious and I've never done anything wrong. He's done a lot of things wrong.
Sure, he has the betrayal. Sure, he let all the prisoners out of the
defund the police, whatever. Abolitionist. Here we go.
That mission sucks. Actually, you start Forsaken. I love Forsaken. That mission when you go through that prison, and they're like, why are all these savages out of their cages? And I'm like, you know what? Cade's about to get his. Actually, they're specifically like, Cade put all these people away, and I'm like, and they're about to put him away.
He fucked around. He is about to find out.
He is about to. Anyway, let me play a Fallen, please. Make Destiny 3. Let me play a Fallen.
I swear they're going for it.
I can't do a good Variks voice, but a friend of mine, their partner, wrote this incredibly good tweet that is just like the thing that I love about Variks. I'm going to post it in the chat, but I'll also read it aloud for the benefit of people who listen to podcasts. The Drifter attempted to make a fool of Variks. He inquired, "What is up, dog?" Variks knows of this trick. Variks replied, "Not much. What is a hen weigh?" The Drifter answered as expected and found himself made the fool.
Oh, God. Incredible.
The best tweet in the world.
God, incredible.
I love Variks.
The thing about Destiny is that it's like high key a broken ass game where they're flying by the seat of their pants. But also, this incredible, expansive, beautiful universe full of lore that I find incredibly enriching, incredibly fantastically interesting, that feels like it's finally coming into its own in terms of storytelling.
I do think it's here. Like, I do think it's that lore that you're talking about is in the game.
Finally. It's in the game now. Yes. The first time I did a Lost Sector and realized I was walking into Bray Exoscience, I was like, fuck!
And there was voiceover. Your ghost has some things to say about Bray Exoscience and like what the fuck happened here. There's a character. Maybe it's a mission? Is it so I'm playing as an Exo for this. I re-rolled my Titan who's an Exo.
Super great.
Because there's like lines that are like, oh, this is where your people were made, actually. Like blah 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 blah, which is sick. So there is that part of this works so well for me. I like to wrap back around to just this expansion. I don't know that I'm liking it as much as Forsaken, but that's almost unfair because Forsaken was so vast between the Tangled Shore and the Tangled Reef, Tangled Shore, and the Dreaming City, but also just. I think the boss fights in this game or in this expansion are really good, but they're not as there was so much flair to the kind of the Scorn bosses, the Barons. They had so much identity, and it's huge broad stroke identity. It was here's the rider, here's the sniper, the marksman, right? Exactly.
Yeah, totally. But you basically got a boss rush of 8 unique bosses with fully voiced lines and different things to do in each encounter.
And it ruled. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't interesting here. And it's a tighter group of enemies, it seems. But it doesn't have as much. That part of it doesn't have as much flair for me. Yeah, I love Europa. I think it's really cool, but I do find myself wishing for more environments still. I did get stuck on one of the boss fights for quite some time. I've gone back to the Cosmodrome. I've come back to Europa. Is that right?
Yeah. I just did that part last night too.
I think that's right. I've done the strike. Have I done the strike? No, have I not done the strike?
Yeah, the strike is where I am at right now because I wanted to level up more.
The Vex one?
Yeah. And then by the time
so I've done that. I've done that strike. Yes.
By the time I hit 1160 last night, I was like, I gotta sleep. Gotta go to bed.
I believe if I would need to look at a list of all of the missions or whatever. I believe that I'm headed towards what's the name of that ship? What's the name of her ship?
Oh wait, you mean the city? Reese
Reborn?
Reese Reborn. Yeah, that's right. I'm on my way to Reese Reborn. That's where I'm on my way to.
Another example of the way they finally managed to integrate gameplay and lore. Reese is the name of the fallen planet.
Oh, sick. That's interesting. Okay.
So
cool.
yeah, they. So
I think I'm like an hour or two away, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Did y'all do that fight? Do you both at this point have done the Technocrat boss fight?
Yeah, that's the one in the Exoscience, right?
Yes.
Just so many class reductionists on Twitter, I have finally defeated Praxis.
That fight is very cool. It was very trying for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just didn't have I was at the right power level, but it was just a rough one.
I over-leveled for it.
That's the right call. That's the right call.
I was in swords when I did that, and it took me half an hour of running for my goddamn life, basically.
What are you gonna do?
And then taking a couple pot shots and continuing to run.
Yeah.
That was that.
And
one
you get the fucking superpower. You get the ice power there. You get cosmic ice.
We have to talk about stasis.
It's
the sequel to we have to talk about Kevin.
And I'm not 100% sure that it's useful in that fight. It's nice. I guess it's useful against the ads and stuff. But the first time I played, I had Praxis down to the last little bit, and I went in for a punch, and Praxis did a knockback thing that threw me into a pit, and I was like,
God damn it!
If I just stayed at the end of the thing and sniped Praxis, this would have been done.
What class are you playing?
I'm playing Titan for this.
Titan.
So I've heard stuff about stasis. I'm playing Hunter, and I have to say the Hunter abilities for stasis.
We got one of each.
Oh, great. This is also does match all three of our personalities, I just have to say.
It
is like a 17 quiz, I feel like the Hunter subclasses, or the Destiny 2 subclasses. But what I've heard just from reading the Reddit is that stasis abilities for Titans don't really feel balanced. For Hunter, it's kind of perfect. It was perfect for using... Yeah, it was so good.
The thing that for me was I played through once I realized that the Cosmodrome intro section is more than 20 minutes long. I was like, well, I can't restart another Hunter right now. So I was going to restart both and be like, oh, what way am I feeling? And then I was like, well, no, let me just commit to the Titan at this point. I've beaten every DLC for this thing with a different character, basically. I went through the last 3 things by bouncing between the characters I have because I'm a fucking weirdo who wants to do things according to who I think would do them and not. Sure. I don't think my one Guardian would also do Shadowkeep and also do Forsaken. That's not in my head canon. This is who I am. But yeah, I thought Titan. I'm not really. Hunter has the coolest abilities for me, my personal aesthetic for the new stasis stuff. You have what? You got weird.
You got ice shurikens.
Ice shurikens, which is sick. Yeah.
And they can one hit kill low level enemies, and it slows the bigger ones, which is very useful when you're surrounded by ads.
And your ult creates like a tornado, like an ice tornado or something.
Yeah,
also,
it's one like ice pick that freezes enemies, and then an ice tornado to follow up that does damage on unfrozen enemies and shatters the frozen ones.
And then Warlock has a staff.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a staff, I think I would continue my Warlock. I really would. I don't like the staff.
I totally understand. Aesthetically, I think it's kind of the goofiest of them, but I think the actual powers feel so fucking good to me because your melee power is you just throw that bolt and you can freeze anyone, or like it's got an AoE. You can freeze a couple of enemies in place, and then during the actual super, you're shooting like a group of those, 3 of those, and freezing things, and then your right click is this kind of AoE blast around you that shatters anything in the AoE. So like you just freeze a bunch of people, then sit in the middle and like right click, and then boom, everything's gone. It's fucking sick.
To the point now, in the expansion's been out long enough that I'm playing, public events on Europa, and people are using stasis, and like that Warlock super is so good for stuff like Spire integration, where you just have to do like waves and waves of enemies.
That makes perfect sense.
Like swarmed on all sides, and then everyone's frozen, and it's just
everyone's fucking
And the
great thing,
my Warlock does not look like the type of motherfucker who would have a staff. It's just true.
Right.
He doesn't have that age. He doesn't have it. You know what I mean? Now, if I re-roll a Warlock and make a different character, then I can conceive of this. Honestly, they so badly need to let you just spend $3 to let me recreate my characters visually because I know that they're, and I suspect they might do that in the coming seasons, the coming year, because they did roll out not new faces, but there's a new face system internally to the game. You don't have more choices. I was really hopeful. I was like, I really hope that there is more black hair in this game. There is not more black hair in this game. But they've said they want to add more diverse stuff, blah, blah, blah. We'll fucking see. I would like that very much because what's there now, I just don't like how most of my characters look. It's frustrating. Anyway, the Titan stuff, just to complete the loop here, is their melee is like this punch, this punch where their fist gets covered in ice and it like hurls them forward. So it's like a distance closer. And I think it freezes the enemy if it hits them. And then their AoE or their super is like an AoE ground pound that sends out these arcs of ice that freeze things and then shatter them. And likewise, you can like do that punch over and over. And that stuff is fine. The Titan stuff that I tend to like is the more like commander, like support class, like support Titan is kind of where I like to play Titan. And this just, it kind of is that in the sense that you're doing AoE ad clearing type stuff, but you're not doing well, I guess this thing is like, I don't know. Are either of you far enough in to look at the aspects, which is the other big like mechanical promise of this game?
I'm about to get my first one, and I'm like,
okay.
I just hit 1200. I just hit the first like soft cap, so I'm starting to do powerfuls, and this is like 4 hours post campaign, and I still don't have one. Like I'm getting there.
Oh wow! Okay.
Like it's
so aspects,
the rollout of. It's not even just aspects, but like each stasis thing, you're gonna get 3 grenades and
same 3 grenades across all classes.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm almost to unlocking the first option of grenades and also the first aspect, which is, this kind of essentially a perk node that you can consider like a thing that changes the way that the class plays. But I haven't seen it yet, so I don't actually know how aspects are supposed to be the biggest one, and then there's
fragments, right? Yeah.
You see, they also updated ghosts so that you can now add mods to ghosts. Also, they seem to be going in this direction where they want to make everything as modular as possible to serve as many different playstyles as possible, which I think is good. But, I know that like immediately, this is like, Destiny fans are going to hate me for this, but y'all are just exactly the same as the Sims fandom. Like, every time anything new gets announced, you hate it profusely, and then you all kind of learn to live with it after a while. And I get that, but, like, what makes me excited, knowing that I'm disappointed with some of the things that happen mechanically, like, yes, the game does feel empty now that they've, like, vaulted basically half of the game. And the game, like, as much as I like Europa and how big it is, and the storm system is incredibly cool, actually.
Yeah,
when things
really
get super white out and you can only see like glowing lights in the distance, it
blows your. If you're on a Sparrow, it fucks with your trajectory. It's
it's really good. It's really good.
It feels very good. It feels very organic. I love that it's kind of unannounced and you kind of have to just watch the winds. Like that feels very much. Puts me in character as my guardian. It feels very good. But hearing you say that post-campaign, you are still working your way towards aspects. There's still stuff to see, stuff to unlock, stuff to change up how I play this game. That makes me excited. And that makes me feel like there is substantial enough content for me to like really chew on after I finish whatever the hell's happening with the Exo Stranger and whatever.
Right.
Go ahead. To expound on that really quickly, the great thing about it too is that it continues these storylines, and it's not just like quests and then you get a thing. These like even after the main campaign, all of these quests are still tied to like you're talking to the Exo Stranger, you're getting more dialogue out of her, like you're getting more explanation for these things. Yeah, and it's so good. Like this is a thing they started doing very, very intensely in Shadowkeep, where after the campaign was ended, you had this series of quests that you would come back and do weekly that would give you new story bits, more of Eris's backstory and how she related to all of the fire team that she had lost.
Right.
I wrote a piece on it way back when that was coming out about how it was a surprisingly like touching look at grief, and it was a thing that I had hoped Destiny would continue doing. And in this, they definitely have. Even after like I finished the campaign day one because I took the fucking day off and was in there as soon as I fucking could, and I played until like fucking midnight. And I was worried. I was wondering like, okay, how much after this campaign is there left? And there is still it seems like a ton left. Like each time I get a new quest to unlock some new either exotic or a new aspect or like a new piece of the stasis subclass, everything is tied to narrative now in a way that old Destiny wasn't. Old Destiny would maybe give you a block of like a paragraph of text at most, and this is like constantly all the vendors are talking to you, like they're still working through things narratively even though the quote-unquote main campaign is over, and all I'm doing now are like the post-campaign quests. They're really, really good.
I have a theory about why the narrative stuff is suddenly hitting so well. And I realized when I was thinking about this that it's basically comic books now. Like there's enough Destiny lore, there's enough stuff to fuck with that you can have like a massive crossover event in the form of an expansion that undoes some of the things you know and adds new information. You know, like it's 100%. It's less a prestige television show than it is pulp fiction. This is like, reading like noir pulp books, essentially, where it's incredibly melodramatic, but there are these little hints, notes of humanity and truth and like actual emotionality that hook me. Like in the lore book I was reading, it ends up being The Dark Future, which is about the Exo Stranger. It ends up being about the Exo Stranger and her sister, like about the deep abiding love between the two of them and their relationship. And like that adds so much to that character that was really like in the first Destiny, literally a cipher, just nothing to her.
Yep. Just wait. Just wait. That shit gets that you.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm gonna play
it's so
this.
good.
God,
you like really that's the thing. That's the thing about if you're playing Destiny for the first time and this is your introduction, it might be a little overwhelming. But
yeah, I don't know that most of that will hit without having gone into the lore, the deep dive lore stuff, or having those relationships already. Right.
Well, I think some of it does. Like some of it, you see them because they're re-explaining. Like the Exo Stranger, I think ends up explaining like her situation enough that I think you should start to see her as a character, and like the situation with her and her sister like gets played out as this like.
I believe on the Exo Stranger. I think like seeing Eris Morn and the Drifter. That stuff feels like so just built on what you already know of them. Or Variks also. Like I think Variks' story is good, but I know Variks' story coming into this from having read it already and having met Variks in Destiny 1 and having met, I don't know, Gita, you did not meet him in Destiny 1, but like you know enough about like what his deal is at this point. And I think he's well written. I think he's like a good middleman for missions and stuff, and he's funny and blah, blah, blah. But like to understand his rise and fall and rise, it requires some of that buy-in. Yeah. And I say this to contrast it with something like Forsaken, which did not need that buy-in because it's such a simple story where it had you get Uldren's motivation, even if you don't really understand what his fucking deal is,
right.
What's up with Morozov. You get that Cade 6 was important and is killed at the beginning of that, even if you don't have any fondness for Cade 6. In fact, if you know Cade 6 less, you might even, I don't know, people are on different parts of the Cade 6 spectrum. I was ready to see that motherfucker go because that's who I am. But
especially after that opening fucking mission.
Yeah. Anyway. I that's not to take away from this stuff, but I do think it really rewards like a big comic book crossover event. It really rewards people who can look on the pans like, yo, this is referencing issue 32 when da-da-da-da-da-da. Right? And that feels good. It does feel good.
To me, it feels like the stuff with the Exo Stranger and her sister, you experience materially because you're going to these locations that have material significance to both of those characters. Yeah. The other stuff, that does feel more comic booky. It feels like fan service, and I respect and get that, but I'm more proud of them for the stuff with the Exo Stranger.
Put it in the fucking game. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like they figured it out. They figured out how to not have all their lore be on websites.
Yeah, I do want to go back really quick to the aspects and fragment stuff to explain to the audience why that's exciting. So you now have with these new stasis classes, you have aspect slots, which themselves all have fragment slots. I believe that's correct, Cado. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I think those are two different things.
They're two different things.
Aspect slots, and then fragments are. I don't think they have anything to do with the aspects as far as I know.
The thing I'm looking at straight up says that this aspect has 3 fragment slots. So
oh really? Oh okay. It sets up how many slots you have.
Right.
But the bottom ones are It's just about
I got you.
Inventory.
Those aren't connected. Yeah. I got you. For instance, here's an example of why these are interesting. The Shadebinder, which is the Warlock one that has a staff and can freeze enemies, with big AoE stuff, has one that says shattering a frozen target spawns seekers that track and freeze other nearby targets. And then this fragment that's equipped on this one is slow from your abilities lasts longer. For those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase and has a +10 strength. This is the sort of like customization that has not been in this game since Destiny 1. And even in some degree, I would say that this goes beyond some of the Destiny 1 stuff in terms of there being even more abilities and stuff. Here for Gita, here is a Revenant stasis aspect that says activate while midair to quickly descend and shatter nearby targets on impact. Right? That's a new verb for you to play with. And it's not just picked from as far as the way that this looks is that it is not just a menu with 3 options, which is the way the Destiny 2 class customization has happened. It's their items that you can find and equip, which means that they could add more.
Yeah, they've specifically said that it is totally modular. It is not like the nodes that they set up with the light subclasses where you just had 3 options of like which tree you wanted. But within those trees, the perks in there are locked.
Which I like narratively a lot. The darkness doesn't limit you like that, guys.
Right.
Pick your own shit, right? Like find your own path forward.
God. I mean, mechanically, I always felt like the 3 options I got for subclasses, there was always one thing I didn't like about them. And this solves that problem so perfectly. Like, I play as a solar subclass hunter, but I play as a subclass that doesn't have golden gun because I high-key don't like golden gun. I like
so you like the knife. You're the knife one.
Yeah, I'm way of 1,000 cuts.
But I would.
Awesome. I would be way of the sharpshooter though if it didn't have golden gun.
Right. If you could tag that out to something else or something like that. Yeah, that'd be cool. And I hope that we get. I mean, I don't think we'll get. I'm not sure if we'll get reworks of those things or if we're just going to get additional.
I would guess
darkness things.
Have you seen how it's set up on the character screen?
No, I haven't.
Basically, when you get stasis, this is post campaign because you get spoilers. I guess you get stasis at the end of the campaign.
Stuff. Yeah.
Basically, where you can choose your subclass in the upper left side of the character screen. There's just a button to swap between light subclasses and dark subclasses.
So do you think there'll be 2 other darkness subclasses for the next those are 2 big expansions then?
Yeah, that would make sense. Either that or. I mean, probably, I would. The expansions make sense.
This year, that would be huge.
The next
if they did it like in 3 months, yeah.
Oh, sorry. The next expansion is all about fucking darkness again with the hive.
Right.
God, sorry, but go ahead.
Witch Queen,
sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, that's the next 3 expansions are all darkness shit, right? So that's the next 2 years of this game. It's now next year and the year after. That's a lot. I don't know, 2.5 years. We'll see how long the tail is on that last one, but like presumably it's going for the next few years going to be about this stuff. And my guess is it's one per expansion, because I think the idea of them rolling out more than one per year would be cool as hell, but shocking.
Yeah, right. Especially given the way that they've kind of made this subclass editable, like modular, and also how different stasis is from any other mechanics in the game so far. Like, just having a crowd control, like literal crowd control that freezes things and has that extra damage when you shat. Like, here's the really great thing about stasis for me right now that I'm really excited to try out is that when you're doing your super solo, for example, the cadence is supposed to be you freeze something, then you shatter it, because shattering things gives you extra does extra damage and does add damage in an AoE. If you have just two people running stasis subclasses, suddenly my warlock becomes, I'm gonna freeze you there, Titan, then continue to punch, and you can throw out a ton of damage.
Right, because you're shattering everything that you're freezing. Yeah, totally.
Faster than I could do it on my own. Like, there's a little bit of a cooldown in between the actions. So this is like a
aspect to Shadebinder that has to Shatter Dive, whatever the one where the shattered enemies will seek and freeze other enemies, and then you just get an endless chain of damage.
Totally.
It's absolutely this thing where it plays with cooperation in a way that I don't think the other subclasses have quite this way, where you're doing actions in tandem, where cooperation for the other subclasses, like Commander, for example, where you hold up a big shield for your team.
Yeah.
It's where you're doing this one action and everybody else is shooting. This is like we're both using abilities in tandem together to get more damage. And that's a very interesting and new way to play with the verbs in Destiny.
Totally. And I hope that continues to be built.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Is like I feel like if this is the direction they're going for, the next subclasses are gonna probably take time to develop and make sure they don't fucking break the game, because it's they're adding more complexity to the way you kind of to use abilities.
And I think this wouldn't actually be possible for the game if they didn't narratively figure out what the difference between the light and the darkness is.
Right.
Like, we still don't know a ton about the light. We don't know a ton about the Traveler. It's more active in the game than it has ever been before, but it's still a silent orb. It's just a big egg.
It's just a big egg in the sky.
It's a big egg, but the darkness speaks to you. Actually, Cado, I wanted to ask, has this happened to you while you've been playing with the stasis empowered parts of the expansion, where sometimes your screen will just say "ready for salvation"?
What?
What?
That happened to me while I was playing, and I was like, "What's happening?"
That's
sometimes
weird.
my screen will just like slowly say, ready for salvation, and I'm like, "What the fuck is happening here?" Anyway, that's just a new touch that I hope was not me being very sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, you couldn't have the concept of the darkness giving you more options in its powers, or darkness from your powers that come from the darkness being this thing that you can use in tandem, more collaboratively. If we didn't know that the darkness is quote unquote evil, is just a different approach to the concept of existence than the light. That is the
that
divide.
Stuff is all very cool. Yeah. Reading about the conversation between what is the name of that book?
I forget the name of the book, but it's the story of the gardener and the winnower.
The gardener and the winnower, right.
Yeah.
And the ways in which that's like the ways in which we got to where we got, being a conversation between the light and the darkness about simulating different ways of life, seeing that they all basically ended up with what I guess fans theorize as the Vex, that like no matter what we do, the Vex win at the end. And then the gardener, who is the traveler, or who's the light, being like, no, you know what? I have a way of changing this. I'm going to get involved myself. And then the darkness be like, all right, word, me too then, I guess. Really, I think immediately recontextualizes this in a way that's like, we might prefer there to be existence, but existence doesn't necessarily prefer us in particular. The light, the traveler doesn't have any fondness for humanity. It has fondness for existence, and we're only as useful for it as long as we continue to be a potential vector to exist. But like the fallen, for whatever reason, did not get that there was the moment where it gave up on them. And when you have that perspective, it becomes a lot more clouded in a really fun way.
Yeah, essentially the Guardians in the lore of the Destiny universe now are like the Travelers saying, and another thing to the darkness. To
the darkness, yeah, exactly. What if we take these people out of causation?
Yeah. It's you look back at it calls everything about the way Guardians are into a sudden and stark relief. Like, why do you lose all your memories when you are awoken again as a Guardian? Oh, it's because he's trying to make a point about the nature of man. Nature of man, that you will choose to be good, and that's why you can't have any other contacts. Like, that is a purely selfish thing on the part of the Traveler.
It's also pretty fucking funny given the state of the Dark Ages, the point at which these fucking zombies and warlords ruled the earth before the last city came into existence.
Yeah. Like the Traveler couldn't make an ontological point with the Fallen, so it left. But it could make a point with us, so it stayed.
Right, so it stayed for now, at least.
Yeah. In that dark future, you see like a desperate Commander Zavala who has like realized this truth about the Guardian, or about the Guardians, and about the Traveler, and it's very, very interesting.
Oh, hell yeah!
I have to read that one. I haven't gotten it yet.
It's a good one. It's a good. I opened up all the lore books in different tabs while I was working on a feature yesterday.
Nice. Good.
Hell yeah.
Good. Are there any other final thoughts here on Beyond Light, or what we'd like to see come next for the rest of the season, etc.?
I'm very curious for y'all to finish up, because there's a thing at the end that I want to talk about. Maybe we do a small spoiler section once y'all hit the end of the campaign.
Sounds good. Yeah.
People are up in my mentions saying Destiny lore reasons when, and I can't tell them shit.
Listen, give me the time and let Vice approve it.
Seriously.
Don't look at me.
we can't tell you the answer to this.
Look at Vice. All right. I think that's going to do it then. We'll wrap back around maybe for that spoiler conversation in a couple of weeks once people have a chance to get through it all and things develop. Because that's the other thing is like, when is the raid? That's what we should do. We should do it after the raid.
Yeah.
Is there a raid coming?
Next Saturday. Not tomorrow if you're listening to this on Friday. The
21st.
Yeah, the 21st.
Okay. The season also hasn't really started yet, and that's all the shit that has to do with Aldrin Sov, who is now been risen as a Guardian.
Right? Yeah.
Crow and pulled pork, the
Crow
two favorite
pork, like you do. Yeah, pulled pork is such a fucking good name for a little robot that follows you around.
Yeah.
So, this thing I realized, I've been just sitting awake at night thinking about this, is like Guardians are basically pro skaters who woke up with a talking dog that's their best friend.
I love it. I love it.
That's what they are.
Just fucking zooming around on sparrows, doing sick tricks.
And there's just a talking dog who will do just like the dog from Up, essentially. But
totally.
Do anything for you.
God. All right. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Where can people find you, Cado?
At @Cado_appears.
And how about you, Gita?
You can find me at XOXO Gossip Gita.
Do either of you have anything you want to shout out before we wrap up?
We already talked about it. I feel like
we already talked about all the big stuff, right? Yeah.
There's this game called Rivals that came out in September. I just learned about that is literally just a game about the feud between Jay Farrar and Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. I haven't played it yet, but I'm going to play it over the weekend. So we'll talk about it Monday.
Yeah, please. Okay. We'll be back on Monday for more. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. You can I was going to say that there's a third thing. You can find out more about the track Miss You, which is by Bowen, by going to waypoint.zone/BOEN. I don't think I have anything else to plug. I don't think. Oh, wait, is that true? Do I have another thing? I have another thing to plug. I have a book. The Star Wars book dropped.
Yeah, you have a story to
I'm a story in a fucking Star Wars book. You can go to your local bookstore or to I tend to tell people to go to bookshop.org, which is a local bookstore shop online service that like connects you to the inventory of your local bookstore, and you can search for let me make sure I get the full name right here, because it's From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back. From a Certain Point of View, A New Hope also came out like a few years ago. So the one I'm in is The Empire Strikes Back. It's out on a hardcover right now, and I think there's also an audiobook version of it. And you can go read that. I have a story about IG-88 and Dengar, 2 bounty hunters who showed up in Empire Strikes Back. It's very fun. I like it a lot. It's been very fun to find people talking about the story in reviewer terms, but it's a short story collection, which means you're not going to get like a big write up. So instead, here are my 2 reviews so far. And a very good story about Dengar and IG-88 who got close to Han Solo, to the Han Solo bounty, but not quick enough in No Time for Poetry by Austin Walker, says Kyle Larson of StarWarsNewsNet.com. And then this one here from Head Butter Ryan of Minok Manor, another Star Wars fan site.
Hell yeah.
Walker manages to dive into IG-88's swiveling head to great effect, from how he feels about organics or prepares simulations to kill his new partner Dengar when he's annoyed with him. This tale is odd couple levels of yes, please more. So thank you.
I can't wait to read this now.
Ryan from Minok Manor. People can go check that out. I'm pretty happy. It rules that it's out.
I just want to mention this weekend, me and some friends are going to be doing a charity live stream for abortion rights funds. I'm actually going to be playing some Destiny Beyond Light with Nico Deo, who has written for us before. She wrote some great articles about Overwatch and specifically Diva and Korean feminists. Yep. And I think I'm going to be playing a little bit of The Sims with my boyfriend David, and we're going to work on my Gita's Sims 4 save where I redo all of the lots in The Sims. It's going to take me 400 years. So come tune in, please.
Perfect. Incredible. Please go tune into that. Support reproductive rights.
Where can you find that? It's Twitch.
It's a twitch.tv/ what was it? Hot Gamers for. It was for Bernie at one point, and now it's no longer for Bernie. Now it's just for rights. But I'm gonna tweet about it. Go check out my Twitter profile at XOXOGossipGita. You'll find all the details there.
There you go. Go do that. All right. Until then, until Monday, as always, fuck capitalism. Go home.
All right. Also, the other cat's sitting on the windowsill, and it's like escalated with Ella and the other cat to the point where they start swiping each other, trying to swipe each other out the window. Yeah. I need to find someone to adopt this cat. She's very friendly. I picked her up and held her in my arms. She'll go straight in a carrier. You know, she needs help. She needs love that I can't provide her because my other cat will try to kill her.
It's just a stray, or
she's just a stray,
just hanging out.
She, clearly is a baby and has had people feed her before, so she totally trusts humans. Yeah, but I heard last night some cats getting into a fight somewhere in the lot of apartments. That are all connected in the back. Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 stray cats. I need like some. I need actually a stray cat rescue to just give me some traps. And just come to my backyard.
All right.
Do I need a clap?
Yeah, we need to do a clap.
All right, let me get time.is. I was just brushing up on Destiny lore in case.
Perfect.
Gita, quick, tap the mic you're supposed to be using. Okay, that's the right one.
Is it? Okay.
Why does it sound weird?
I checked on Audacity settings too. Did it get turned around? Yeah, it got slightly turned around.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, in the setting itself.
There we go. No worries.
That's it.
Yeah.
I
checked the Audacity recording. Dude, I was sourcing from the correct mic.
Cool. All right. Perfect. I was like, it sounded odd. It sounded more roomy, and I was like, oh, that's why. It's pointing towards the wall.
It's pointing to the
room. You want to do 5 seconds after?
Sure.
All right. All right.
My mouse keeps dying. I thought it was the batteries. I've changed the batteries 3 times, and every time I move the wireless hub, the little thing in your computer, it'll work if I switch it to a USB plug on the other side of the computer, and then it's fine for a couple of days, and then it loses the connection. So I don't know if the mouse is going or if the connector is going. But it's like trying to edit Demon's Souls last night and watching the cursor just like jump around the sentence I'm trying to get to.
No.
That's annoying. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
The wireless mouse?
Yeah.
There's your problem right there.
I wasn't gonna go there, Cado, but I appreciate that you did.
I don't play games with a mouse and keyboard when I play them on a computer. So I'm good.
I wasn't gonna go there, Rob, but okay.
All right. Ready?
Yeah. What top of a minute?
So 55.
55. Okay.
You know we do it quick.
8-hole
We're gonna hurry up there.
Yeah, we run the hurry up over here.
Motioning the sidelines, trying to get my personnel out. Matt Nagy can't be seen. He's behind his play sheet.
We gotta do it. We gotta do another one. I hurried up so much I fumbled the ball.
Oh,
don't worry about it. Classic problem with the hurry up offense. Not all of my various things were working. Let's do 29 seconds.
Ooh, I got time to relax, like rub my back.